Leave a like in the video. I'm not really going to give you anything, but you should still do it, so leave a like. What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new story, and today we have a perfect karma story. A perfect story of a spoiled kid getting owned by his teacher. It's one of those just really satisfying stories that'll leave you feeling like all is right in the world, man, after you're done watching it. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's just jump into the story. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the story Sultan. That'll be the name we'll be using, and yeah, let's do it. Anyways, so there's a kid in Sultan's class who we are simply going to call the spoiled kid. And this kid was not only a kid who had access to a lot of money, which, I mean, he did, but just because you have access to a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that you're like an entitled brat or a spoiled kid or anything like that. You could be genuinely a good person and just happen to have access to a lot of money. You can also be a poor, bad person. Like, you can be either or. However, way too often when a kid has access to too much money and knows other people don't, he kind of feels this sense of entitlement, or she feels this sense of entitlement of like, I earned this, even though, you know, as you get older, hopefully you learn that you didn't. So this spoiled kid was one of those kids who would wipe his butt with a $100 bill if he was given the opportunity, and then brag to everyone about how he wiped his butt with a $100 bill. Like, he was that type of spoiled kid. And he was also just a jerk to everyone. Who's very entitled. He was very like, I deserve everything because I exist, therefore like I should have. And like, if I don't get what I want, then like something is wrong in the world. One of those types of kids. So anyways, just like starting off this story, we're starting it off with a bang because it is show and tell. And I don't know if you guys had show and tell. I had it like very briefly in 3rd grade. Some kids had it like every single year through even high school, which is pretty crazy. But these kids were in 6th grade and they still had show and tell. I think the teacher just was like, I don't know what else to do. It's like, I see all my other teachers doing it, even though the teachers were like 2nd grade teachers or whatever. So the kids were a little weirded out by it, but they're like, whatever, we'll do show and tell. And we're starting off with the spoiled kid who walks up to the front of the class to show off his item for show and tell. And like, for example, Sultan brought in one of his like, I don't know, one of his old, like, 1980s vintage, like, Superman comics or something. That was one of the things he was super interested in. One kid brought in, like, a football because, like, he was a big football guy, and he was like, I don't really know what else to bring in. Like, it really was this, you brought in something kind of interesting, but you didn't do what the spoiled kid was about to do. So the spoiled kid comes into class, and he walks up to the front, and he takes a box. He has this like box in his hand, and it's kind of like a smaller box. It's like a square shaped box, so it's not a rectangular shoe box. It's a square shaped box. He opens it up, and inside is this shiny watch. It seems to be like one of those silver plated watches, but it definitely looks very expensive. However, you could have just left it at that. Like, the thing that makes it like, maybe, here's the thing, if you had a really expensive watch, maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to bring it in and show it off for show and tell. However, the spoiled kid goes too far. Because when the spoiled kid's up there, he's like, hey guys, like, for my item of show and tell, I wanted to show you off this watch. I got this watch for my 13th birthday, which, bro, for my 13th birthday, I got a Star Wars action figure, which was fire, by the way. I was so happy. But this kid's like, yeah, in this watch, I want to play a little game with the class. And everyone in the class, including Sultan, were kind of looking at each other like, what does he mean he wants to play a game with the class? Like, what does he even mean by that, bro? Like, lol, okay, what? And he goes on to be like, yeah, so I'm going to take guesses. We're going to play higher or lower. We're going to play higher and lower, guessing how much this watch costs. Which, first of all, like, dude, if you're going to say it, just spit it out. Like, you don't have to drag this out. But also, if you're bringing in something and the whole point of the item is that it costs you a lot of money, like, that's like the lamest form of flexing I've ever seen. Like, I don't know, like, like, even just wearing it, like, leave it, like, everyone knows that this watch is probably expensive. They all know that you're the spoiled kid who gets whatever he wants. And yeah, the watch is probably expensive, man. So, I don't know, like, you just don't have to say it. But eventually, like, no one is raising their hands because no one wants to be like, oh, is it $5,000 just to boost the kid's ego? And he's like, no, more, ha, whatever. No one wants to boost this kid's ego because it's already boosted up to the moon and beyond. So eventually the spoiled kid's like, no guessers? You guys are completely like lost or whatever? He like mutters under his breath, figures. And he's like, well, let me just say that if you're going to guess anything under $1,000, you're wrong. Just pure silence. It was super cringe and uncomfortable because like, I know that this kid thought he was like the most, the coolest, Like, wow, this kid is so awesome. I wish I was like him. However, literally no one felt that way after hearing this. They just thought that he was like an entitled kid slash spoiled brat. And yeah, so he goes on to say, well, teacher, do you have any guesses? And the teacher can't just be like, isn't like kicking him off, but obviously isn't super happy with the way this is going. So he's like, no, I don't actually. And the spoiled kid's like, fine, I'll tell you, $10,000. And everyone kind of just looks at him. Obviously, that's a ton of money, and especially for a watch, that's a lot of money. But, you know, everyone's kind of just looking at him like, okay, dude, like, do you want a prize? Do you want an award for that? Do you want an award that someone bought you a $10,000 watch? Like, you're not getting my admiration or respect. So do you want, like, I don't know, do you want a trophy that says hard, like, biggest flexer in the school or something? Yeah, so the kid just, like, is like, yep, and that's all I want to say. And he sits down, and yeah, that's just, like, and that's, that, to start off the story with something like that, just shows you a little glimpse of what this kid is like. But when he sits down, he doesn't sit back in the spot he was normally sitting. He sits next to this girl. This girl we're going to call Kate, because I call, like, a third of the girls in my stories Kate, because it's easier for me to remember, because name of my friend back home. Anyways, so Sultan happened to have a crush on this girl, right? And he saw that, like, the spoiled kid, instead of sitting back in the seat he was just in, sat next to Kate instead. And he was talking up Kate, and, you know, to give credit where credit is due, the spoiled kid was low-key pretty good at flirting. He was actually cool with it. He was good with it. And I hate to give him credit because, like, no one wants to give the spoiled entitled kid credit, but I gotta be fair in these videos. Dude was definitely running it up. And Sultan saw this, right? Sultan said because, by the way, the story was submitted to me via Instagram. Follow me and then DM me your own stories if you'd like. Sultan admitted to me that he was getting a little jealous. So the spoiled kid is, like, talking this girl up. And I think that, like, Kate was, like, pretty embarrassed for him after the whole, I have an expensive watch. But the thing is, this guy was just being so, I don't know, like, he just had game that was unmatched. And I think she kind of just started to willingly forget what the spoiled kid just did. I think she was like, yeah, this kid isn't too bad looking, and also he's pretty smooth with it, so I'm just gonna forget the fact that he went up there flexing that someone bought him a $10,000 watch and kind of, like, drew the whole thing out, like, as long as possible to get the most attention, as well as the focus of the presentation was that the watch was expensive. I'm just gonna forget all about that. So yeah, Sultan had to watch for the next 20 minutes, and because, by the way, other people were going up there, showing off whatever they had, and everyone else's presentations for show and tell were pretty normal. Like, they were pretty normal people presentations or whatever. However, the spoiled, and yeah, no one was showing off, oh, here's $1,000 gold brick I wiped my butt with. But yeah, the thing is, the spoiled kid wasn't showing any attention to these kids' presentations. He was just whisper flirting with the girl next to him, which was Kate. Unfortunately, this was Sultan's crush, so the next 20 minutes were super infuriating, not just because some random guy was flirting with Sultan's crush, which it's always tough. Dude, I've been in that situation a lot, where you see someone else and you know that they're doing a good job, and they're basically just saying, like, hey, man, that's tough for you, but this girl's mine, man. I've been in that situation. It's unfortunate, but it's even worse when that person is the worst. Like, at least if it's a good guy, you're like, dang, I lost out. Like, I'm taking the L, but at least she's taking a W. The thing is, though, Sultan knows that this guy's the worst. So yeah, this was, like, the most excruciating 20 minutes of Sultan's life. However, things turn around for Sultan because, you know, he's talking with his friends, and his friends all know that, like, he has, like, a thing for Kate or whatever. And they're all, like, at the lunch table every day. They're like, did you talk to her, bro? Did you talk to her? Most of the days would be no, and they'd be like, dude, come on. But one of the days he'd be like, yeah, like, we had a little conversation. They'd be like, let's go, let's freaking go. And they'd all, like, stand up in the lunch table and go, like, pum, 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 but, like, bang their table. It was cool. It was a fun time. But they also all knew about it. So when Sultan was explaining what happened, the guys were like, dang, bro, like, that's mad tough. Like, I hate to see that, like, especially with that kid. Because, like, this, even though those guys weren't in the class with Sultan, they just knew that that kid was the worst, just in general. However, when the kids was like, you know, actually, he's like, wait, I think I have something to say. And he said that, like, word was getting around, like, that everybody, after, like, some girl in the class saw that, like, Kate was talking with the spoiled kid, apparently, like, every single girl and, like, half the guys in the entire grade went up to Kate, because like word gets out really quickly. They go to a pretty small school and also middle school. If a guy talks to a girl or vice versa, then oh my God, they're dating, bro. Like that was a big deal back in the day, which is kind of crazy to look back on. And I'm like, dang, that's actually how it was back then. But anyways, word got out pretty quickly, and like literally everybody went up to Kate and they were like, dude, this kid's the worst. Don't give him the time of day. I know he's smooth with it, but trust me, he's terrible. And the nail in the coffin for the spoiled kid is when his ex-girlfriend, sure, they're like in 6th grade, so oh my God, 5th grade girlfriend, that's so serious. But anyways, when his ex-girlfriend goes up to Kate and is like, look, I know you might be thinking I'm just saying this because I want to get back with him, but I guarantee you I will never even talk to that kid again. And she goes on to list all the reasons why their relationship failed and why it was a terrible experience and why she shouldn't be anywhere near that kid because he's like the worst, most entitled, spoiled kid like ever. Yeah, so eventually Kate, just like the next day, Sultan goes into class and the spoiled kid sits right next down to Kate. And before, like, even though the spoiled kid was very, like, smooth with it and he had a lot of game or whatever, at this point, like, you know, Kate, like, the day before, Kate was at least responding with, like, complete sentences. She was, like, responding like a normal person. But today, for some reason, the spoiled kid was very confused because today she came in and she didn't say anything, dude. Like, she would be like, yep, okay, haha, whatever. Or just flat out ignore stuff sometimes. Like if the spoiled kid made like a joke under his breath, even if that joke was funny, like the day before she would laugh at everything. She'd even like overemphasize like how funny she thought it was, right? But today, she made it look like every joke bombed, bro. She made it look like this kid had a Netflix special that got 1 star or something, dude. But the spoiled kid was just really confused. However, the spoiled kid apparently really liked Kate. And this was not good for Kate. Because the spoiled kid would start to get a little bit desperate in his attempts. And by a little bit desperate, I mean you are about to see the most uncomfortable and cringe thing I've probably ever... okay, maybe not ever told on the channel. I've told a lot of stories that are pretty cringe, which if you guys are bored, feel free to check out the playlist of my stories linked in the pinned comment after this one. But yeah, you're about to hear one of the most uncomfortable things I've told on the story in a second, on the channel in a second, told on the story. Guys, I can't even speak English properly. I gotta take some more English classes. But yeah, the spoiled kid gets a little bit desperate for Kate's attention. Let's just put it like that. He gets a little bit desperate. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment spoiled down below. That'll be the secret keyword of the day. If you want to farm some hearts on the channel, I will try and heart a bunch of comments to say the secret word down below. And also, if you do want to support the channel, I mentioned this a second ago, but there is a playlist in the pinned comment down below. If you put that playlist on, it's all my old stories. If you put that playlist on while you're doing something like, I don't know, cleaning your room, playing video games, drawing, trying to go to sleep, whatever, right? It actually really does support the channel because watch time's really good. And please let me know in the comment section what you were doing while watching my videos. I read the comments all the time, and I'm genuinely so interested to hear what you guys are doing. And also, I try and hard and respond to those comments because it's my way of saying thank you for supporting the channel by watching the videos while doing other stuff. Let's get back to the story as the spoiled kid is about to do something pretty mega cringe. So let's get into it. Yeah. So a couple days later, and this is a couple days of, you know, the spoiled kid failing to flirt with Kate. At this point, every single day, Sultan, while he's not, he's not making his moves with Kate, so he can't really be too happy about it. However, he's sitting back, and he's watching the spoiled kid basically flailing his arms around in a sense, by the way that he's just like trying to talk to her and it's not working. But on Friday, they were supposed to do presentations on countries, because this was like, I don't know, a geography class. I think the last time I had a quote-unquote geography class was like legitimately in 6th grade. I haven't had geography class since 6th grade. But anyways, since they're in a geography class, they were each given a country to do a presentation on. It wasn't that deep. Like, this wasn't worth like 100,000% of their grade, and if they even like coughed in the wrong time, they would fail immediately and be kicked out of school and then have to literally live on the streets from that point on. It wasn't that deep. However, it still was a presentation that was worth like what a quiz would be worth, and you had to do it in front of the entire class. I guess though, the spoiled kid decided that, you know, he was just going to take a 0 on this presentation because he decided that this presentation was a perfect opportunity to basically try and win Kate back, quote unquote, right? So he decided to do something very cringe and very uncomfortable because Sultan goes up there and he has a presentation on, I don't know, man, Libya, right? And he goes like, oh, the GDP of Libya is whatever. Here are some cultural things I found interesting. Here's like the history of it. Here's the current president, whatever, right? And he goes down and everyone's doing the exact same thing. And that's when the spoiled kid goes up there. And Sultan low-key thinks that in the presentation, the spoiled kid's gonna like accidentally include an image of the spoiled kid sitting on his bed covered in a pile of money and be like, oops, how did that get there? Right? But Sultan has no idea, is not prepared for what is about to come, right? He is simply not prepared for what is about to follow. So the spoiled kid goes up there and he starts the presentation. And immediately, everyone realizes that this will not be a normal presentation, and this will not be a normal day in geography class. Because the presentation starts not with a photo of a country, not with the name of the country. He was supposed to do Argentina, not with the name Argentina or a photo of Argentina or anything like that, or not even a blank like slide. Like, it's not like he messed up and he added a blank slide. On there says, reasons to date spoiled kid. And by the way, whenever I say spoiled kid, fill in a name in your head. It's just easier for me to say spoiled kid. Yeah, so anyways, he's like, reasons to date spoiled kid. Yeah, the presentation literally says reasons to date spoiled kid. So everyone in the class starts like mumbling to each other. Some people are very shocked. And the teacher... Dude, I don't know why in all these situations the teachers always just let these things run on, but the teacher must have like not been paying attention, been spacing out because all the presentations were low-key kind of boring. I mean, it's just like the GDP of Japan is 100, like boo, boring, I don't care. And I think the teacher was spacing out because he was not paying, he did not stop this, right? And he's like, reasons to date spoiled kid. And goes to the next slide. It is literally a stock image of dollar bills, bro. It's a stack of money. And it says under there, you will be financially supported. Literally saying, I will be your sugar daddy, bro. That's legit what this kid was saying. And he was like, he says, all right, so as you can see in the first slide, and I think this kid was being very careful not to expose himself right away, because the teacher would have heard if he's like, reasons to date me. Number one, I'm rich. But he's like, everyone, so as you can see in the first slide, this is true. And everyone's like, bro, what? And Sultan's like, hey, yo, bro, like, what is going on right now? Like, this is legit crazy. Yeah, and then he goes to the next slide. And it literally says, super... Bro, it says super handsome. He announces himself as his reason number 2 is that he is self-proclaimed super handsome. And it's a photo of like, okay, I wish he put a photo of handsome Squidward in there, but it was just a photo of himself. I think it would be much funnier if he put a photo of handsome Squidward. That would be much funnier in my opinion. But yeah, it is. It's a photo of himself, and number 2 says like super handsome. And Sultan looks over, and Kate looks appalled, bro. Like I think Kate was like kind of just taking everyone else's word before when they're like, you can't date this guy, he's the worst. I think she was kind of a little disappointed, but like trusted, especially when, you know, his ex-girlfriend came up and said, yeah, this guy's the worst, that she's like, all right, fine. I think like she just had a look of like, oh, so this is why he sucks. Okay, that makes sense, actually. This right here, this makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then he goes on to the next slide, and it's like, we'll pick you up in fat whip. And it's a photo of like, it's like a photo of like his dad's car or whatever. It's like one of those like nicer cars. Like, I don't know if it's a full on like Ferrari $3 million crazy car or something like that. But it's like one of those Porsche Mercedes type. It's like one of those cars that could run up for a lot of money, which is kind of dumb at a certain point. Like, if you like nice cars, you like nice cars. But dude, I kind of feel like at a certain point, you're just burning your cash, but whatever, right? He's like, we'll pick you up in nice whip or whatever. And then the next slide is the worst one. Because the next slide, he's no longer talking about himself. No. He is no longer talking about himself. He now says, so, ... And everyone's like, where is this going? It's like dot, dot, dot. And this is when the teacher starts to pay attention. And he's kind of like, what? Like, what is this presentation? Because he must have been spacing out for the I'm so rich, I'm so handsome, and I have a nice car part of the presentation. Because he definitely would have stepped in and been like, hey, bro, this doesn't look like Argentina at all. But it just says so dot, dot, dot. Kind of like the next thing's going to be crazy. So the teacher's like, is it like a GDP reveal? Is it a commentary on the internal conflicts in the southern region of the whatever, right? It's like, I don't know what this reveal is going to be. And we click to the next slide. It is the worst thing ever. Because it says, like, Kate, these reasons are great. You should go on a date with me. It's fate. It's like a poem, bro. He asked Kate out via poem. It's great, right? So everyone in class is like, lol. Everyone bursts out laughing. Like, it is not the reaction I bet that the spoiled kid thought. I bet when the spoiled kid was typing this up, in his mind, he was expecting everyone to be like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. You are so rich, handsome, and have an awesome car and a nice watch and are just so hot. So, of course, Kate would want to go out with you, dude. Oh my God. It was like, I wonder who this guy wants to go out with. He wants to go out with Kate. I'm so jealous. No. And then all the guys would be like, oh my God, how could Kate say no? He's so rich, handsome, and awesome. Oh my God. Yeah, let's just say that how it turned out was a little bit different. Everyone was just freaking out. Like, kids were getting out of their seats and running around with, like, you know, the hands on their head. You know that gif of, like, the guy who, like, leans back after roasting someone and all the people freak out around them? Just imagine but with the class. Like, even Sultan stood up out of his seat, put his hands on his head, is like, oh my God, starts walking back. He has a friend in the back of the room who just, like, falls out of his chair laughing. Everyone's like, what the frick, bro? Like, what is this dude doing, dude? And at this point, the teacher's like, spoiled kid, like, this has nothing to do with Argentina. And some people in the class are probably thinking, dude, you just caught on that this doesn't have to do anything with Argentina? Did you not realize that the first 3 slides were like, I'm rich, I'm handsome, and I have the coolest car ever? Because, yeah, that totally has to do something with Argentina, bro. But everyone's freaking out. You know, Sultan's on the floor laughing. He's slamming his hand against the desk, like, oh my God, bro. Like, this is... And at this point, like, Kate is just, like, looking at the ground. She's like, I'm not here. This is not happening. Why me? Like, I shouldn't have even talked to this kid. It makes total sense why everyone was like, stay away. This kid's a freak. He's the worst. It makes sense now. I should have listened earlier. All that stuff like that. At this point, the teacher realizes what's going on. And he's like, spoiled kid, this has nothing to do with, I don't know, like the presentation. Like, this is a distraction to the class. Like, you're distracting everyone. And you're, like, making weird comments about classmates in regards to the weird poem on stage or on the screen saying, like, oh, can you go out with me, Kate? It's our fate, bro. Like, first of all, he should have been expelled for cringe, but I don't think that's actually a thing you can get expelled for. But if it is, or if it was, he definitely would have been. So you might be thinking that this is, like, the end of the story and that it doesn't get crazier. And you might be thinking, Connor, why did you title this like teacher rages or exposes or embarrasses or whatever, spoiled kid? Let me just say that this isn't the end for the teacher ranting on the spoiled kid. The teacher very soon is about to do a massive dunk on the spoiled kid in front of everyone. Probably something that he's been wanting to do for a while, but has been held back, right? So yeah, the spoiled kid is sent to the front office. He gets he gets yelled at, he gets a 0 on the presentation, whatever. Other than that, he doesn't get much more of a punishment. So the spoiled kid, give this a couple days, right? He's no longer sitting next to Kate because he kind of realizes at this point, he kind of did the Hail Mary, which wasn't even a Hail Mary because those at least have a chance, even if it's unlikely. He did the good old shotgun to the face maneuver, which doesn't really work that well in battle. It doesn't really destroy the opponents that well. It's a little detrimental to yourself, I've heard. But yeah, this is when he learns the truth, according to him, right? So word gets out because Sultan's sitting at the table and one of his boys comes up and is like, dude, the spoiled kid is super mad at everyone. And, Sultan's like, why? Is he mad because we didn't bow down to him when he showed off his like $2 billion house or something? And he's like, no, apparently the spoiled kid was like told that like everybody went up to Kate and told her that they shouldn't mess with him, right? And he's super mad and is like planning to like get his revenge or something. So Sultan's like, what? Like, what does that even mean? And he's like, I don't know. Apparently he's going to like expose everyone or something. So Sultan's like, okay, that's pretty weird. Like, first of all, does this kid actually think that us saying, hey, man, be careful is really what made Kate not want to get with him at the end of the day? Like, does he not believe that his presentation saying that he's super rich, handsome, awesome, and drives fast cars and Kate should go out with him, which he delivered via a poem, do you really think that that didn't have any effect on the fact that him and Kate aren't currently dating at this very second in this universe, in this timeline? Like, do you really think that that is like the reason why? Do you think that that has any effect? And no. No effect at all. In fact, that probably helped his chances. But the fact that Sultan said bad words about him means that he doesn't have a chance with her anymore. Or at least that was the logic. However, the spoiled kid didn't think that one person, like he didn't think Sultan or one of Sultan's friends individually said, like, don't, like, told Kate not to get with them. The spoiled kid thinks that literally everyone in his class is like against him. So he's going to expose quote unquote everybody, which is just kind of ridiculous. But Sultan is kind of excited to see it because he's like, all right, bet, let's see it. So after class, or the next day comes around and Sultan walks into class and he sits down and the spoiled kid's late. So he's like, oh, maybe spoiled kid's skipping class because he can't handle the fact that Kate's in here and he couldn't secure the bag. But no, the spoiled kid walks in 2 minutes late to class, and the geography teacher's like, spoiled kid, like, you can't be late to class like this, like, go sit down, like, it's a distraction when you're late. And the spoiled kid says, no, today I need your attention. He stands up in front of the class, and the geography teacher's like, what? He's like, no, you're sitting down, and the spoiled kid's like, silence! And the geography teacher literally goes silent from shock because he would have never expected one of his students to yell silence at him. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard. But the spoiled kid goes on to say, it is all your fault. It is your fault. Sounding like Nico Cotto Avocado for a second. He's like, it's your fault, and points to everyone. You guys were bad-mouthing me to Kate, saying that I'm not a good guy, when all I am is very good, handsome, and rich. The reason why that this girl, points to Kate, embarrassing her again, which, bro, that's not chill. Not chill at all. But he's like, the reason why she won't go out with me is because you guys tricked her into thinking that I'm the worst. Everyone's kind of looking at each other. Sultan is like trying to hold back his laughter because he's like, bro's digging his own grave. That's crazy. But yeah, he's like, you guys are the reason why she doesn't like me. You guys are the reason why we aren't dating right now. And Kate's like literally has her head in her arms. Like, can this kid stop, bro? He's embarrassing not just me, which he is embarrassing me. He's also playing himself with this whole thing, dude. Like, he's got to stop. Someone's got to stop this kid. But, yeah, no, and he keeps on going on to be like, yeah, and the reason why she doesn't like me is you guys. You all told her I suck when I don't. And, bro, that's when the history teacher comes in and drops a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bomb. Sorry, I pronounced it wrong. Not nuclear, it's nuclear. My grandmother loves telling me, like, nope, wrong, because I'm always like, nuclear. She's like, nuclear, which I might as well pronounce it correctly. But he goes on, drops a bomb. He stands up and he's like, that's not why she said no, spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid turns around to look at the teacher. It's almost as if in one of those action movies where, like, the bad guy thinks that, like, he's, like, shot down or killed, like, the good guy or whatever. And then the good guy gets back up with, like, a massive machine gun and is like, oh, like you thought, like, you killed me or whatever. And then he comes back. Kind of like the same energy. Everyone in the class was low-key stunned because they were not expecting the teacher to come with such fire. The teacher goes on to say, the reason why that she's rejecting you is because you're an entitled, spoiled brat who thinks that just because, like, that he can get anything that he wants and he can be a jerk and disrespect anyone. The whole class goes silent, but this isn't your typical silence. This is your, damn, someone just got roasted silence. And just like, everyone's attention, every ounce of their attention was on this teacher. Because this teacher was just going in, bro. He was going in. He's like, every day you come in with some kind of entitled arrogance. When we had show and tell, you didn't bring something that you cared about. You brought something that was expensive just because it was expensive. When you went up there to do your presentation, when you went up there to do your presentation, and you didn't even do the subject matter that we're covering, you just covered yourself because you wanted to ask a girl out. And what was the qualities that you portrayed up there? You didn't say that you were kind, funny, or smart. You said that you were rich and handsome. Which the first thing is because you're a father and mother, and the second thing is questionable. Boom! God damn! I'm gonna have to pull the fire alarm in here, bro, because that was too fire. This too toasted, dude. I'm gonna catch on fire just being in proximity to these burns. But yeah, a spoiled kid literally looks so destroyed. And the teacher ends it off by saying, might as well sit down now and cut your losses. And instead of trying to fight back, the spoiled kid at this point knew that, yeah, man, he might as well sit down and just try and cut his losses, because he was not going to be able to recover from this one. So as soon as class got out, word spread of this like wildfire. Spread like fire, even hotter than the burns that were given to the spoiled kid, right? Sultan rushes to his lunch table with his friend, and they're all just screaming about it. The whole lunchroom is abuzz like this. And if you don't want this to happen to you, leave a like. I'm just kidding. No, you should leave a like. But if you don't want this to happen to you, just be a good person who doesn't let things like money, or maybe if you're just a good-looking kid or whatever, you just got good genetics, you rolled well, or if you got money, or if you're really smart, or if you're the star lacrosse, hockey, football, whatever player, if you don't let this stuff go to your head and you're a genuine good person, then this stuff will never happen to you. And that's the moral of today's story. If you want to support the channel, watch another video. Love you guys. Peace. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a subscriber story about the spoiled rich kid who is basically being a brat the whole time. And at one point he even said, and I quote, "Poor people are garbage." Thankfully, this kid gets what's coming to him, and the ending is pretty good, and when I saw this story, I just thought I had to tell it on the channel. If you enjoy storytime videos, consider subscribing to the channel with notifications on. If you don't turn on those notifications, you will not see the videos. And also, leave a like on the video right now, and you will receive absolutely nothing, just because I'm feeling extra special generous today. And with that being said, let's get right into the story. So this story takes place during Thanksgiving of this year. The subscriber has an extended family in which every Thanksgiving he goes and visits, and he drives down a couple hours to the location that he goes to, and it's him and all of his family members all meet up for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is an interesting holiday because if you don't like your family, you are forced to go see them. Thankfully, I like my family. We get along quite well, and it's always a good time to see them. But there's a lot of times where family are the friends that you're forced to have. So sometimes you guys just don't mix well. It is what it is. But, this subscriber really likes everyone in his family, except there's this one cousin he has, which he cannot stand. Subscriber was, pretty middle class. He just was normal guy, right? And the rest of his family was kind of in the same situation, except he had this one cousin who came from a very, very, very rich family. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. In fact, it's totally fine, right? It's more the attitude and the way you go about it, right? And this cousin had a terrible attitude. And the thing is, I saw a comment on a video I made about another situation or another story that was kind of similar, where someone was just kind of being bratty because they had money. And someone said it really is the parents' fault. And the thing is, I will kind of have to agree. This kid was 9, 10 or something. And at that age, it's still a little bit on the kid because they're doing it and they are at least aware of what they're doing. But at the same time, a lot of it is coming from, how you're raised, if your parents didn't enforce rules around this stuff. But anyways, right, so there's this cousin that the subscriber hates, and he was really hoping that the cousin would, I don't know, go to some fancy trip in Spain or something for Thanksgiving instead. He was really hoping he would get lucky and they'd be like, "Oh no, we're going to Norway to I don't even know, man. We can't come. But nope, they had no plans. And the mom of the cousin was like, oh, we're so excited to see you guys. And the subscriber was like, okay. Anyway, so he's driving down and he's talking to his mom a little bit, or the subscriber is driving down, to be clear. So the subscriber talks to his mom and he's kind of like explaining why he's like a little bit bummed out to go. And his mom's like, yeah, your cousin does not have the right manners. He doesn't really know. He definitely needs like, his mom really needs to step up the game. But the thing is, we need to see the rest of your family, right? We're only able to do this, once a year to get everyone together. And don't you like the rest of your family? And the subscriber was like, yeah, I do really like the rest of my family. And I should just suck it up because, this guy, how bad can my cousin be, man? How bad can my cousin be? And let me just say, he underestimated how bad his cousin could be, bro. So let's give the cousin a name. Let's call the cousin Jimmy. Yeah, the cousin's name's going to be Jimmy for the sake of this video. Obviously, his name is not actually Jimmy. I actually didn't even get the name. So there's like a small chance it actually is Jimmy, but it's not Jimmy. That's the fake name we'll use for the cousin. Anyway, so the subscriber eventually gets to the house of his, I think it was like his aunt or some family member that kind of hosts this whole thing. And he gets there and Jimmy is not there. His cousin Jimmy is not there. But basically every other family member is there, right? So he's actually the subscribers having a really good time just, interacting with his family, just like catching up. He hasn't seen them in over a year since the last time he's seen them all in one place was, last Thanksgiving. But normally he'll see some of them more often, but this year was just kind of crazy. And he didn't see any of them during the whole year. But then they hear a car pull up outside and the subscriber is just like, okay, this is Jimmy. So he kind of like gets up and he peeks out the window and outside is this like super nice car. He's like, yep, okay, there's no shot this isn't Jimmy at this point. So, they're waiting at the door and they hear the doorbell ring and, the dogs are barking and the dude's like, okay, it's only a matter of time. Like he's here. Just get over yourself, bro. So subscriber's like, dude, you just got to get through this one night and also just don't hang out with him, man. Like, it's not that hard. Literally hang out with everyone else. The problem was, like, he was, like, the age of the subscriber. Oh, no, the subscriber was the age of, like, Jimmy, the cousin, and they were kind of younger than everyone else there. There was a lot of, like, older relatives, and then there were some kids, but the kids were, like, 18, 19. They were, like, I don't know, like, 11, 10. So he was kind of bound to be hanging out with the cousin, but he was really hoping he'd get lucky and just be able to hang out with the older kids and then also, the parents or whatever. But yeah, anyway, so Jimmy walks in and his mom's like, oh, hi everyone. Oh man, I missed you guys so much. It's so good to see you. You know how it goes. So they kind of go around saying hi to everyone. And then eventually Jimmy goes around saying hi to the subscriber. And he kind of just looks at him and he's like, hi. And, at first the subscriber was like, oh, maybe he's just kind of shy. But he kind of felt like he was being snubbed a little bit because Jimmy was kind of gave him a look. Like no enthusiasm, no care in the world, was just like, hi there, cousin I'm forced to be with. The whole family kind of like gathers around besides some people in the kitchen that are kind of like finishing up the Thanksgiving meal, getting it ready. And the meal would probably be ready in like an hour or so. So the whole family decided to kind of gather together and just kind of like talk amongst each other, just kind of like be there. So Jimmy and the subscriber are kind of near each other and the subscriber's like, okay, fine, I'll talk to Jimmy. So it's Jimmy and him, and he was kind of hoping that another person would come over to talk like with them, but it just ended up being those two. So the subscriber's like, hi, Jimmy, right? The subscriber wasn't like, he admitted that he wasn't being like super enthusiastic, but he was at least like, he was putting in some effort. He's like, hey, Jimmy, like, how's school going? And Jimmy's like, I don't even have to go to school because I don't even have to get a job. Like, dude went right on, he started right away on his tangent, bro. On his, like, just his attitude. Not even a second out of the bat, he's already like, I don't need to go to school. I don't need to get a job when I'm older. Like, all right, I'll have plenty of money. And the subscriber's like, oh boy, this is about to be a long Thanksgiving, bro. I'm going to interrupt this video just for a second and ask you guys to comment eggnog down below. That's EGGNOG. That's like a festive drink a lot of people drink at Christmas time. If you don't know, like about midway or close to the end of my videos, I have people comment something to see who actually makes it to the end, as I really do appreciate people who watch my videos all the way. And yeah, we're commenting eggnog today. And also, if you want a lot of hearts from me and you want to farm like top commenter or most hearts on the channel, I'm trying to heart as many comments that just comment eggnog down below. So yeah, anyways, back to the story. So the subscriber kind of responds to Jimmy, and just to recap, the subscriber just asked Jimmy like, oh, how's school going? And Jimmy said, oh, I hate it. It's so stupid. Like, why am I even going? Because I don't even need to work when I'm out of college, right? Or out of school. Maybe he doesn't even want to go to college. And so the subscriber is kind of like, he's not very happy, but he's not going to be super confrontational about this. While it makes sense, because, you don't want to start something on Christmas, the fact that like the subscriber wasn't confrontational throughout the next like bit of the story, he said in the DM that he sent me because you can submit stories to my Instagram, it's in the description. He basically said that he probably was like, the fact that he didn't like push back more against Jimmy was probably one of the reasons why the story went as bad as it did later on. But anyways, back to the story. So then Jimmy wasn't like, the subscriber wasn't too happy at Jimmy for what he said, but obviously he doesn't want to start something. But he kind of said like in response, he's like, oh, like, I mean, I'm doing pretty well in school. Like I kind of have to, because like I'm really trying to get into a decent college so that I can go and, get a comp sci degree from a decent college. Cause like, he's like, yeah, I want to, I gotta like think about money in the future, kind of like in response to like what Jimmy said. And it was supposed to be kind of like a little response saying like, hey man, like I actually got to work and you don't. And like kind of as like a negative thing. But Jimmy was like, yeah, man, that must suck for you. Like he didn't understand that like the subscriber was trying to say that as like a negative thing towards Jimmy. And Jimmy's like, huh, tough L, lol. Which, I mean, this was all pretty impressive for them being like 10 or whatever. And to be fair, the subscriber, like, I'm going to make the assumption that he like saw one of those like YouTube videos of like best careers. And honestly, I have a lot of friends now that are in college that are getting comp sci degrees because they know it's a good major. So like, shout out to the subscriber, bro. Like, honestly, shout out to the subscriber for knowing what he's doing so early on. Anyways, Jimmy's like, oh, you probably have to work a summer job too. And at this point, the subscriber had not, but he honestly had been thinking about it because there had been some games they'd been wanting to play. But his mom was like, those are too expensive, or I'm not going to buy them for you. And if you want to get them, you're going to have to do it with your own money and, maybe mow some lawns or something like that. I think the subscriber's too young to like actually get like a real job, but he'd like go around, I don't know if like a paper route's still a thing, or maybe mowing some lawns, or just the stuff you do when you're too young for like an actual part-time job. So he was a little upset by the fact that like Jimmy was dunking on him for like trying to get his hustle on, trying to grind, right? So, but he doesn't respond with anything that negative. He's just like, yeah, probably. And then he kind of ends the conversation. The subscriber's like, I can't do this anymore. So he's like, hey, Jimmy, nice to talk to you. I got to go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom, and then he comes back and sits somewhere else during the conversation, which honestly, bro, that's pretty smart. So eventually it is dinner time, and that's probably one of the best parts of Thanksgiving. Yeah, I like seeing my family, but bro, that pumpkin pie, man, that's something else. That's all I'm going to say. But anyways, right, so it's dinner time, and, the turkey's being passed around and cut or whatever. And Jimmy's like, to his mom, he kind of looks over at his mom. He's like, I can take a bigger piece, right? Because I'm rich. And no one really hears this, but the subscriber hears this and just rolls his eyes. He's like, oh my God, Jimmy's actually the worst. Mom responds like, oh, Jimmy, of course you can take a bigger piece, but that's not a reason why you can take a bigger piece. Completely like ignoring how bad what her son just said was, and kind of just saying like, oh, a little slap on the wrist for what he said, but being like, yeah, of course you can get a bigger piece, right? So Jimmy says, or the subscriber's like, bro, you cannot be serious, man. So at the dinner table, right, they're, they've passed around the food, passed around the turkey, things are good, people are digging in, but they're also talking with each other. And for some reason, right, the car ride up for Jimmy kind of like comes up in conversation. His mom was like, oh yeah, it was such a tough ride down here. Like it took a long time. We're in a lot of traffic. We had to go through some cities. And then Jimmy decides to pipe up, which this is the beginning of the end, bro. So Jimmy decides to pipe up, which is, as I said earlier, just like a bad idea. So what he starts going on is he's like, yeah, the car ride took so long and we had to go through this neighborhood and the houses were so small. I don't know how anyone could live in a house like that. There weren't even like, there wasn't a garage with like 3 cars in it, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know how anyone even lives like that. And at one point, the traffic got so bad that my mom was like, maybe next time we should take public transportation, like the train. Then Jimmy goes on to say, and then I said to my mom, poor people are garbage and I don't want to be around them because I'll catch a disease. And then he kind of makes us look around, kind of like looking for validation after what he just said, because he thought it was like super funny and true, and like everyone would be like, oh, that's so funny and true, Jimmy, like, wow, you're a comedian, like, you're actually so funny and true. And everyone's just like looking at him just like blank face, this like, come again? I did checking their ears like, oh, I must have gotten something wrong here, man. So the subscriber's sitting there, and honestly, he's trying to hold back laughter because he knows that Jimmy just messed up. And then he looks at Jimmy's mom, whose face is just blank, just completely blank. But you could see that she like, it looks like she just swallowed a rock, bro. Like her face was blank, but you could look at her eyes. And all of a sudden, you see that Jimmy stands up, but he didn't stand up on his own accord. His mom yanked him up and literally just walked him out of the house. Literally just pulled him by like the shirt, and Jimmy's like, Mom, right? You walked him out of the house. And then like the dinner table was so silent, and they just wait like a minute, and then they hear a car engine go, and they hear a car leave, and the subscriber's like, no way, dude, this isn't real. He runs out to look out the window, Jimmy's car's gone. And he comes back to the table, and he's just like, what just happened? And nothing really happened after that besides the subscriber and his family had a great Thanksgiving. And yeah, that was quite an ending, so I thought I had to tell that in the story. What did I just say? I just said I have to tell that on the story. I had to tell that story on the channel. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, if you really want to support the channel, just go ahead and watch another one of my story videos. There might be one in the sidebar recommended, or there might be some on screen right now. But, you know, you can also watch the Storytime playlist, which holds all the stories. It's first link in the description. It probably popped up on screen. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you next one. In today's subscriber story, this spoiled rich girl is being a huge brat on the school's field trip, till a pretty hilarious twist happens, and it's probably one of the greatest examples of instant karma I've ever seen. Enjoy. The story all happens on a school trip to a dinosaur museum. This was the subscriber's like key event for his year in 5th grade. The big thing they did was they went to this dinosaur museum as a class. It was kind of like the big culminating final event. So this happened towards the end of his 5th grade year. And this was like a very big deal for everyone, as like they studied an entire unit on dinosaurs. They finished up a final project, and the big kind of reward slash payoff would be to go to this dinosaur museum. Just kind of like check out all the cool like skeletons and fossils and models, and like, oh, just have a really good time, right? So everyone there was pretty excited, and you know, the day happened, and the subscriber and his friends, they load onto the bus, and you know, they sat towards the back. They're sitting like with the boys. You know, I don't know if you guys have been like on field trip buses. It's just like a really good spot towards the back with your friends, just having a good time. It's a great time, right? Anyways, but it wasn't a perfect field trip ride over, unfortunately, and I'll get into that right now. So there was this girl in the subscriber's class, and her name was Betty. And right, her parents made a lot of money, and right off the bat, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, she can't do anything about that. She can't do anything about her parents making a little bit of money, a lot of money, a moderate amount of money. You know, it's not in her control. So that's not, I'd never look down on someone for that alone, right? But it's really the way you act about it. Like, and Betty, let's just say, took it in the worst way possible. She basically acted the worst because of it. And that's something that is 100% in your control, man. Like, I know it's like, oh, the parents raised her. Dude, you're in 5th grade at this point. Like, it's time to grow up. I know I'm saying like 5th grader, time to grow up. But at some point, man, like, I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, it's definitely on the parents for like raising a kid, like, and teaching them the wrong things. But time to grow up. I'm going to say time to grow up. Anyways, Betty was known as being kind of like the snotty, spoiled girl, right? And on this field trip on the ride over, she just started talking about how she was so excited to go to the gift store. And everyone else was actually, you know, who was on the bus was talking about what they were excited about. Kind of like, I can't wait to see the big, you know, dinosaur sculptures. I can't wait to, you know, check out the big model. Like, I'm going to take a photo with it. I'm going to go send it to my mom. She's going to be so excited. Like, this is going to be so cool. And Betty's like, what Betty was talking about, and talking about very loudly to like the one person she sat with, because Betty didn't really have a lot of friends because, I mean, she kind of caused that herself because of her actions, but it is what it is, right? But Betty did sit down with someone forcibly, so she was telling them and saying it loud enough so that as many people as possible could hear, as well as the subscriber could hear, because that's how I know about this part, right? That, she actually just got a new credit card from her dad and she will be maxing it out in the gift store. And she's so excited to buy stuff in the gift store. And then she kind of like looks around and then she like looks at the person she's sitting next to and is like, can you max out your credit card in the gift store? And the random girl who's sitting next to her is like, dude, I'm a fifth grader. I don't have a credit card. I have like $25 in a bank account that was given to me by my aunt for Halloween or something, dude. Like, you and I we're just not the same. And yeah, no, I will not be buying anything in the gift store. I do have $10 for lunch though, since we do need to bring a little bit of money to buy lunch there. Like, like that's all I have. Like, I'm not planning on maxing out a credit card for the gift store, but you do you. Betty, like, have a good life. I don't really care. Subscriber that sent in the story and his friends kind of like looked at each other, like rolled their eyes, because this is not the first time Betty has said something like kind of out of pocket like this. I mean, he gave one example in the DM he sent to me. By the way, if you want to have your own stories featured on the channel, DM my Instagram, the stories, the handle's in the description. Anyways, he also gave me a previous story, which I'm just going to tack on real quick to give you guys a little bit of context of Betty. By the way, subscribe if you like story videos. That's it. Back to the story. So this mini story happened just a few weeks ago before the dinosaur big story, right? Basically, at this subscriber's school, you could either get the lunch there or you could bring your own lunch. And one of these days, Betty didn't bring her own lunch. And her own lunch used to be this really like fancy stuff that her nanny or whatever would make. And one day, like for some reason, she forgot it. And she had to eat the school lunch. And the school lunch was not that great. It was not the most epic thing ever. But the thing was, like, everyone kind of dealt with it, or they brought their own lunch, but sometimes they'd actually have to eat the school lunch. It was just something you dealt with. But when Betty had to start eating the school lunch, it was put on her plate. She went down to sit down and just started crying in the middle of the dining hall, bro. And everyone was just like, dude, we all have to do this too. Just get over yourself. So that was just like a little context of Betty, right? So, right, they're on the bus. Betty's talking about how she's going to buy out the gift shop and how she's so excited to do that. And they eventually arrive at the place, at the museum. So they kind of file out of the bus. They take a head count. They have like the buddy system. Poor girl who sat next to Betty, just like not at her own will, right? Was kind of forced to be buddies with her because you had to be buddies with who you're on the bus with. And, so they all walked out. They all went into the museum. Basically, the teachers kind of said, hey, feel free to go wherever as long as it's within the museum. However, you have to be back at 12 for lunch. Everyone make sure to bring your $10 that you brought, right? Or whatever method you'll be paying, as we'll all be going to get lunch together. But other than that, feel free to just roam around and do whatever you want. The subscriber and his friends obviously went around to see all the cool like sculptures and dinosaur, stuff, and just a lot of the cool stuff associated with like, the skeletons. They actually had some real fossils there. So they checked those out and they saw this. They went down to also see a screening of like a little like 15-minute long like little movie that the museum made, which was really cool as they tried to like recreate like the extinction event with the asteroid or whatever. But anyways, they're having a good time. But then Betty comes up to them. And here's the thing. They're not friends with Betty, but they're also not like enemies, or I've never not spoken to Betty because their class isn't like the largest class size ever. It's not small necessarily, but they at least have had enough interactions with Betty that Betty feels comfortable enough to like go up to them and like talk to them, right? She's at least that level of comfort. So Betty's like, hey, come with me, guys. I want to show you something. And they at first kind of were like not really thinking that much. They're like, the subscriber was like, I'm going to be honest, like we were being kind of dumb because like we definitely knew what Betty was saying on the bus, but we were just like, oh, maybe she found a really cool dinosaur sculpture, man. Like, I don't know, or a really cool part of the exhibit that we haven't seen yet. Like, let's just go with her. And right, she's like kind of like dragging one of them. The other couple are following behind. And they're moving past all these exhibits. And, one of them looks up and there's a sign that says gift shop, like, a minute away that way. The dude's like, oh no, dude, like no way. Like we're not going shopping on like the most fun vacation of the year. Like I have to do that with my mom on the weekends. I hate doing that. Like, bro, why would I intentionally do that? But it was already too late. They were already dragged there. And then Betty's like, and now I'm going to buy whatever I want. And there was like another girl in, in the bookshop, not the bookshop, the gift shop. And she was like trying to decide between like a dinosaur stuffed animal or this like coloring book. And then like Betty goes up to her and is like, look what I can do. And just like unironically just like grabs both, not like the items that the girl was holding because there was multiple of them, but it grabs the items that the other girl in their grade was deciding between, puts them in a bag, and then keeps walking around just putting random stuff in her bag. So at first the subscriber and his friends were kind of planning on, dipping within like a couple seconds of getting there because they're like, dude, we don't want to be here. But they were like, they actually decided to stay and just like watch the whole thing go down because Betty literally went through and got one of everything. And I'm not even kidding, man. She went out of there with like 6 to 7 bags full of like stuff. One of basically every item in the gift shop. Yeah, it wasn't like a Toys R Us size gift shop where it's like multiple floors or anything, but it was a decent sized gift shop. This was not some kind of like little like shack on wheels. This was a legitimate gift shop. Like the museum definitely made some bread there. So they wanted to like flesh it out and have a lot of options for people to buy. And Betty literally bought every option. Like on a multiple choice test, she literally just chose D, all of the above. It's crazy. But here's the thing, right? Betty probably didn't want every item that she bought. In fact, there's probably only a few items that she really wanted, if she even wanted any of the items at all, because she did seem pretty like not interested in the whole like in the rest of the museum. So why would she care about all these things like that she could buy at the gift shop? What she really wanted, right, was to like fill the bags, buy all this stuff, and then walk around the museum, find as many of the people who went to her school as possible, and just kind of like show off the bags. Like walk up to them and be like, oh man, this is so heavy. My arms hurt so much from carrying all this stuff I just bought. I bought one of everything, bro. Like, look at me. All right, guys, I'm going to interrupt the story for just a second and ask you to go ahead and comment. Comment snow in the comment section down below. That's the secret phrase of today's video. And I just want to see how many people actually made it this far into the video, as I do appreciate it, as watch time is good. And also you can see who else like actually watched it. And it's like a little secret club or whatever. Anyways, back to the story. So Betty does eventually go around walking with all the bags, and it was heavy. Like she was dedicated to the flex. Like she was very dedicated to showing off to as many people as possible that she basically bought one of everything when it came to the stuff in the gift store. Like she said that on the bus, and she said it loud enough that like she knew at least a decent handful of people had heard her, and she wanted to make sure that everyone knew that she like was true on her promise. So she did that. She just walked around with these big bags and was like, a haha, right? And okay, so it's 12, right? Or it's like 11:50. People are starting to walk over and to the food line because, as you know, I said earlier, at 12, the teacher said, hey, we got to reconvene so we can all get lunch together and also just take a little head count. Like they're staying till like 2 or 3, or I don't even know, probably like a couple more hours. But they just wanted to reconvene at lunch to make sure that like everyone was doing all right. Anyway, so they all get into line, and like the subscriber is in line with his friends, and they happen to be right behind this girl. They're right behind Betty. Sorry, I forgot the fake name for a second. But anyways, right, so they're behind Betty in line, and the line's moving up, and basically you hand them the $10, or you insert the credit card, or, maybe you hand them the like 2,000 pennies or whatever it costs for like $10. I didn't do the math. Anyway, so it's Betty's turn, and she just instantly just drops the card on like the machine. She hands it to the dude swipes it, and the dude's like, sorry, like, it declined. And she just looks at them like, swipe it again. So he swipes it again, and he's like, nope, still declined. And then she starts to like panic a little bit because now there's a little bit of a line behind her. Everyone just heard that her card declined. She checks the app because it's like connected to an app or something. Basically, they froze the card because she bought too many things too quickly on a card that was too brand new, and kind of like, because the museum was kind of far away in like a location that wasn't normal. So they froze her account. and she couldn't pay for anything. And it wasn't like in her name because she was in 5th grade, dude. Like, obviously it was not in her name. It was in her dad's name, so it needed her dad to like figure that out. And he was like busy at work during this time, and she knew that. So basically, she had no money. She couldn't buy lunch at this point. So she just like, she had to do, it was after going around everywhere. And she's still holding these big bags of like all the stuff she bought with the credit card. She now has to do a walk of shame all the way back, asking every single person in line, hey, do you have any money I could borrow? A complete 180 from what she was doing like 5 minutes ago. And you know who ended up having the extra $10 that like she could actually like lend to Betty? The girl that she snubbed in the gift shop, the one that she went and bought both of the items, right? And you know why she gets an extra $10? Because she decided to buy neither and save the $10, right? But she gave it to Betty. She's like, I don't like, yeah, you're kind of a jerk to me, but I don't want you to go hungry, right? So just pay me back later. And yeah, that was probably the like that subscriber witnessing the whole thing was like, that was like probably one of the most like instant karma, quickest humble moments he's ever seen. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you want to support the channel, just go ahead and watch another story video. One of the easiest ways to do that is to watch the Storytime playlist, which is first link in the description. So yeah, see you in the next one. Peace. Today's story is about this spoiled kid who went absolutely off the rails. Like, this kid went absolutely crazy when someone said you can't have everything, basically. Enjoy the story. So the subscriber who sent in the story, let's call him Ryan. So anyways, Ryan is like a freshman in high school, and in one of his classes, I don't think it really matters, let's just say math class for the sake of it, in his math class, right, there's this kid named Jack, and Jack is known for, you know, kind of being like the, you know, the spoiled kid who like is an absolute jerk, like an absolute nuisance, who honestly, like, because he was basically when you're given everything and when you're never told no, you're probably, most likely, maybe I'm wrong on this, but you're most likely probably not going to be like the greatest person ever. You might not have like the greatest moral compass ever. I don't know, man. I really don't know. But at least in this case, yeah, Jack, not a good guy. Granted, right, Jack's a freshman in high school, right? He's still a kid. He'll grow up. And also, you know, a lot of it's on the parents for how you raise them. But either way, right, Jack's kind of known as like a jerk. So Ryan had kind of gone to like the same middle school with all the people that he's going to high school in. Like, you know, he just kind of went to, you know, he goes to high school with the kids in his town, and, you know, he went to middle school with them as well. But basically, right, so, you know, it's his first time in high school, but it's all the same kids, except a new girl kind of like moves in, and because she moved in the district, she's now assigned to this school. And we're not going to get I'm a little conflicted if I give her a name or not, because now I'm going to have 3 names to juggle in my head, and I will totally mess it up. But yeah, let's just call her Kate, right? Screw it. New girl, her name's Kate. And, you know, so they get to class, and everyone's kind of like a little bit nervous because it is, you know, it's the first day of high school, right? But Kate's kind of like, she's in a different picture because she doesn't know these people, and it's the first day of high school, so it's like a really, really big deal for her. It's a little bit different. So they get into class, and, you know, everyone's kind of looking around, and they, you know, they notice the new girl, Kate, and they're like, oh, like, they all kind of like introduce each other, like, are themselves, and they're like, hey, welcome, like, if you have any questions, let us know. Like, we're, like, obviously new to high school as well, but we kind of all know each other, so feel free to, like, you know, talk to us if you need anything. And here's the thing, right? Jack, who's the spoiled kid, right? Not the subscriber's Ryan. But Jack, who's, like, the spoiled kid, always got everything he ever wanted, right? So, you know, he kind of had like an idea that like if he wanted something, or someone in this case, that they would be, you know, that they have to, you know, be there for him, and he has to get them. And he kind of had this attitude towards women, which is pretty toxic. Like, let me just say, like, guys, fellas, no one is entitled to you. Like, LMAO, you should know this, but no one is entitled to you, man. And if you act like someone is, they will definitely not get with you, like 100,000%. But I think most of you guys already knew that. I don't know how I'm even saying that too. If for example, Jack is watching this video, that's a lesson for him, but I doubt any of you guys actually needed me to say that. Anyways, right, so on the first day, Jack makes a real effort to like talk to Kate, right? And, you know, normally that's definitely not a bad thing at all. If anything, right, like, that's a good thing, man. You might be thinking to yourself, or about to type up like, well, Connor, this is actually a good thing. He was probably just trying to make her feel good. You don't want her to feel good? No, but he was like, you have to understand. He was like, going really hard talking to her, be like, "Oh, that's so cool." Yeah, like he was very obviously like hitting on her, and she was very polite and like kept the conversation with him because like, dude, she's new there. She can't like be like, "Nah, bro," like just like piss off. Like she just can't do that because she's like too new there, unfortunately. And the dude kind of knew that, like Jack kind of knew that, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna talk her up, bro. She's gonna fall in love with me, cause like, who doesn't fall in love with me, dude? I'm loved by the masses. I'm loved by the individuals. I'm loved by all the women ever. Every woman loves me." That was kind of his mindset. But anyways, right? So that's not really an issue in itself. Dude talks the girl up a lot, whatever, right? But it's the next day that when it rolls around. When the next day rolls around is when things got pretty bad. Things started to escalate, right? So anyways, next day in math class, they had a whole day, like a whole first day or whatever. And the second day, teacher ends up being like, 10, 15 minutes late, traffic or something. I don't 100% know. But within those 10 to 15 minutes, man, things just spiral downhill so quickly. You'll see what I mean in a sec. So the second day rolls around, and you got Ryan, you got Jack, you got Kate, the new girl, and you got everyone else in class, and they're all kind of just sitting around. And Ryan's talking with one of his friends, but he notices that Jack is like once again talking to Kate, which first of all, totally fine, whatever, right? It is what it is. He's probably like just trying to make her, feel welcome, which is definitely not what he was trying to do, but whatever, right? So he starts saying like, yeah, like, I'm totally single right now. He brings up for no, like in the middle of nothing. She was saying something about like, "Oh, are you like feel good about this math class?" He's like, "Yeah, whatever, right? I'm totally single right now, bro." Like he just kind of like hopped from one thing to another. And yeah, he was basically just like talking about how, oh man, like he is in between girlfriends right now. And like his last girlfriend was like super hot. But she went to a different school. Okay, he didn't say that line exactly. He didn't quote unquote say she went to a different school, but it was like his hot girlfriend over the summer. All right, buddy, sure, yeah, your hot girlfriend over the summer who just broke up with you. By the way, he broke up with her. Do not get it twisted. Do not get it twisted for a second. No, it was him. She was just like not good enough for him, even though she was an 11 out of 10. This guy Jack is a 12 out of 10. You guys don't even understand. So Kate is like, whatever, right? She's kind of like, okay. And she's like, oh, like, I'm sorry to hear that. And then she tries to change the subject, right? And at this point, Ryan, the subscriber, is starting to notice the weird conversation. He's overhearing it a bit, and now he's listening in a bit more intensely. And he can tell that Kate is trying to change the conversation because she said something about like the first homework assignment they got because this is their only second day, and like how much more can they really talk about? And Jack's like, oh yeah, that was like super easy. Did that in like 5 seconds, whatever. And he's like, I've really been missing like a woman's touch. And at this point, Ryan was like, hey, what? Huh? Bro, are you okay? Like, excuse me, sir, is everything okay? At this point, Kate's like, okay. And Ryan's like, no, not Ryan, sorry, no. And this is what happens when I have multiple names. Jack is like, so, I was thinking, maybe tonight we could go, get something to eat. And by the way, this wouldn't be a friendly thing. This would like totally be a dating thing. This would be like, you'd be my girlfriend. And like, I know it's like a huge opportunity for you, like, especially since like my status in the school. Everyone, when they heard that, they're just like, bro, what? Like, no one really likes you, dude. Lol. No, but he was like, with my whole status in the school and kind of like my position, just kind of like, everything like about me. I know this is a really big opportunity. And I'm gonna need you to respond pretty quickly because like I got some other side women lined up. Total cap, by the way. He 100,000% did not. But he's like, yeah, I got some other girls on the side that would totally be down, like so down to do this with me. But I got an opportunity for you, which is like you and me tonight, dinner, dating, maybe a little hand holding, maybe a little first base. I don't really know, like whatever you want to do. It's tough. And at this point, like Ryan's like, no way this kid just said that. No way this kid just said that. That kind of like ends his whole like long rambling, oh, you should totally go out with me, I got so many women who'll love me, kind of like spiel or whatever. At this point, the class like kind of went silent because they were all paying attention because like, I'll be honest, I probably would have done the same. Like
Totally unfortunate for Kate that she has to be in this position. But, like, this is interesting, man. I want to know what happens. And Ryan was also like, oh my God, this kid actually said it. Like, this guy, Jack, unironically just said what he just said. And Kate kind of looks at him and is like, sorry, I'm going to have to decline. You seem really nice, but that's just not for me. And at this point, Jack, right, you know, not his little, am I kidding myself? His massive ego just got a prick in it and it starts to deflate. And, you know, he feels very threatened. So he's like, oh, he's like, well, I was actually, well, okay then, you know, I'm going to hit up this girl. She's like actually much hotter than you. I don't even know why I asked you. You're not even a 10 and I only date 10s. Ryan has been listening to the whole conversation. And at this point, Ryan's like, whoa, all right. Because like, look, before he asked her on a date right away, being super cocky. All that is kind of cringe and uncomfortable for the girl and Kate and basically everyone else, which, like, you should make her feel uncomfortable, but, like, you're allowed to ask people out. Even if you're super cringe, you're allowed to be cringe, right? But, like, going after her looks because she said no to you, and especially since, like, you don't even know this girl, like, she doesn't think it's a joke because, one, he wasn't joking. He wasn't, like, actually thought that because, you know, he asked her out in the first place. But Ryan's like, okay, that's where I draw the line. So Ryan gets up and he's like, hey, Jack, can you piss off? Like, stop being an absolute jerk. Like, she said no to you. Unlucky, move on. And Jack just looks so startled because, like, no one really, it's not that people didn't stand up to Jack before. They just kind of saw him as a joke. Like, okay, this guy's just, like, super entitled. He's just kind of a jerk, but, like, it's funny because he's in a completely different world. Like, he's detached from reality. Let's laugh at him and point. Not like someone actually stands up to him. But obviously, like, he'd gone, everyone there kind of, like, knew about Jack and his, like, antics. But the fact that Jack would say something, like honestly so hurtful to someone who's new, you know, it was actually Ryan's cool guy for doing this, and he stood up. And that's when Jack completely loses it. Because one, he just got his ego deflated a little bit by this girl saying no. And then a random classmate, or not a random classmate, but then a classmate stands up to him. Jack can't have this happen. And Jack goes completely off the rails. The secret word of today's video is spoiled. So if you made it this far into the video, comment spoiled down below. I just like to see how many people made it this far into the video, as I do appreciate the watch time. That's probably one of the greatest ways to help the channel. And I just want to say thanks. And to say thanks, I'll be hearting some comments to say that. I can't heart them all because I just physically can't spend that much time doing that, but I will do my best to heart as many as I can. So if you want to get like top commenter or farm some hearts or something, yeah, just go ahead and comment spoiled down below. And also, today's your lucky day because every single person who leaves a like on this video will receive nothing. You heard me. No, don't. Your ears aren't clogged. You're not hallucinating. I am legitimately feeling so generous that I will give you nothing if you leave a like on this video. Anyways, mini recap. Ryan, right, you know, the subscriber, stood up to Jack for basically, you know, saying something pretty mean to the new girl, Kate, for rejecting him. Jack, who's basically never gotten no in his entire life, just got owned twice in like the span of a minute. And his, you know, he just goes completely crazy. He just goes completely insane. At this point, right, the teacher had actually gotten there. But he stood outside the door and had listened to the last, like, 30 seconds, basically, of Ryan standing up to Jack. And he stood outside because he wanted to, like, not interrupt the situation because he wanted to hear what was going to happen just in case he needed to, like, intervene or something. And Jack stood up and he's like, Ryan, I could literally buy you. I have so much money. And he turns to Kate like, Kate, I get girls so much hotter than you. I have 11s. I have 3 of them hitting me up right now. I have to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. I have so much money that I could buy the entire school. I basically own the school. I could basically own you. I could basically own the entire town. You know the mall. I own the mall. You know that, and he goes on this complete tirade of how he's like the hottest, most wealthiest, most attractive man. Like, this guy was, like, straight up delusional at this point because his ego had been broken so much. At this point, the teacher walks in and is like, Jack. And Jack looks at him all, like startled and like, oh, boy. And he's like, Jack, to the front office, now. And Jack starts walking up, and he turns to Ryan. He's like, hey, Ryan, you're not in trouble, but can you come up there, too? We just need someone to explain the situation. And Ryan's like, yeah, sure, like, 100%, I got you. And basically, right, so, you know, Ryan and Jack go up to the front office, and the principal actually has Ryan come in first and explain the situation without Jack there to, like, interrupt or whatever. And yeah, Ryan explains exactly what happened, and he says to the principal, and if you don't believe me, you can literally ask any other classmate, and they'll say basically the same thing. The principal's like, you know what, you don't have any reason to lie. We believe you on this one. And yeah, Jack got sent home for the day, and he didn't get like expelled or anything, and he didn't get suspended for that long of a period of time. But he basically had to type up a written apology to Ryan and Kate, and also one to the entire class, which was pretty humiliating, but well-deserved, and maybe grounded him a little bit. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. Go click on one of the videos on screen. Go click. Why haven't you yet? Today's story is about a spoiled kid who actually tells another kid that his parents suck because they make less money than his parents. Like, oh my God. Anyways, enjoy the story. Anyways, let's call the subscriber who sent in the story, and by the way, send in stories to my Instagram, link in description or thing in description. Let's call the subscriber who sent in the story, let's call him Calvin, right? So anyways, right, Calvin's at school. I think Calvin's in middle school. I don't really know exactly what grade, but Calvin's in middle school, and he's out at recess with his recess. Why did I say it like that? Oh my God. So Calvin and all of his buddies, they were out at recess, and, out at recess with them was the classmate that they had. This classmate, let's call him Clyde. Yeah, so Clyde was kind of known as being like, the spoiled kid, the jerk kid, the kid who's like, here's the thing. There's literally nothing wrong with your parents, making a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with them making an average amount of money. There's nothing wrong with them making no money. There's nothing wrong with them being secret agents for the Illuminati. It really doesn't matter, But the thing is, it matters how that affects the way you act. If your parents make a lot of money and you're like, I'm more important than everyone else because they make a lot of money, well, okay. That's the problem, right? If you're going around screaming at people, you're worth as much as my shoe because you don't have a lot of money, then you know what? You're the problem, man. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're the problem on this one. Anyways, right, so Clyde was kind of known as like the kid who was kind of like a massive jerk, and one of the reasons why he was a jerk is because he was pretty arrogant because of the money his parents made. Once again, nothing wrong with that fact alone, but something wrong with the way he acted. So anyways, right, One day, good old Calvin, his friends, and Clyde were all out at recess, and they were just hanging out, they were talking, they were having a pretty good day. I mean, man, it's recess. If there's one thing I miss from middle school, it's recess, dude. But anyways, right, they were all out there having a wonderful time, having a good day. It is what it is. They were just out there mining some Bitcoin, just like what normal kids do, playing on their abacus, I don't know what the plural is. While the school kind of like had a loose rule saying you can't be on your phone during school, you can't be on your phone during lunch, you can't be on your phone during recess, right? Kind of yada yada on like that. It really wasn't enforced, and like teachers would see kids on their phone all the time. And when the rule was like introduced like years ago, like at the very beginning, apparently they did try and actually enforce it. But over time, they just kind of quit. They kind of just gave up. So the kids at recess were also on their phones. But the thing is, right, Clyde had just gotten the new high-tech Apple iPhone 368 plus minus. Like he had the new gold-plated, he had the 500 terabyte storage iPhone. Basically what I'm trying to say is this kid Clyde, he got the newest, most expensive, most, coolest version of the new iPhone or whatever, right? And he made a very big deal out of it. And he was like, guys, do you see my iPhone? Oh, it's the new one. Guys, did you see the commercial for the new one? Yeah, it's the one I have. You know how much storage this has? More than your iPhone, baby. It has more storage than your iPhone. I'll bet all the money in the world on that. And by the way, I have all the money in the world. Like he was just kind of on this kind of like I was gonna say tirade, and I also was thinking of rampage, so I was about to call it a tamprage, which just sounds like a tampon. Funny tampon. And he just keeps going on and on about how he has the new phone. But the thing, because like that's annoying enough if you're bragging, right? You're kind of being a jerk when you brag like that, 100%. But the problem really came, right? The problem really came when he started taking a look at everyone else's phones and being like, oh my God, you have the iPhone. You only have the iPhone 15, dude. Like, okay, this was like years ago. So this probably was like the iPhone 3 or something, or 4. I don't even know. He's like, oh my God, you got the iPhone 4? Like, I bet you don't even have any storage. And then goes to another person like, oh my God, you literally have an Android. That's so cringe or whatever. By the way, like I got some friends with Androids. Like they get kind of like they get some jokes sent their way, but dude, some of those Androids function really well. I'm personally an iPhone guy. I'm just used to it, dude. I'm used to it. I'm literally recording this video on my iPhone. Oh yeah, A fun fact, small tangent, I've recorded every single video I've made on my iPhone. Yeah, you don't need a fancy setup to get a lot of subs. Anyways, back to the story, right? So he's just starting to make fun of them, and the kids are starting to get a little bit annoyed. They're like, dude, piss off, like, LOL, like, we don't really care. And he just like, and he just goes on this little, like, this little rampage, right? Anyways, right, so they hear the bell, and that means, you know, recess is done. You have to go back inside. And everyone's like a little bit annoyed, including, you know, Calvin, the subscriber who sent in this story. Everyone's a little bit annoyed, at least, because like that was kind of an annoying thing to do. But at the end of the day, it was Clyde. But here's the thing, Clyde had kind of been doing this stuff for a while. And while you could say on one hand, they were getting used to like Clyde's like out-of-pocket statements, on the other hand, they were getting pretty annoyed. They were starting to get a little fed up at Clyde, right? They weren't very happy with the kid. And this was just another really annoying one. And this one, like, this kind of like rampage about how he was cool because he had the phone and they weren't cool because they didn't have the phone. Normally, Clyde was more like bragging about himself or more really bragging about his parents or whatever and what he had because of his parents. But he'd been more recently, and really starting with this whole iPhone bit, he'd started to like include in his like how cool he was, he started to include how not cool and how everyone else sucked because they didn't have what he had. And that's where people started to get a little bit more annoyed than normal. So the next day rolls around, and once again, all the kids are out there at recess, right? Calvin, the subscriber, he's chilling with his friends. All the kids are out there, all of his friends, and then there's also Clyde who's out there. Notice how I made sure to have a very big distinction between all of his friends and then also Clyde. Anyways, right, they're all out there, they're at recess, and then, you know, one of the kids comes out. And this kid, I'm not going to give him a name because he only appears in the story really at this point only. But he was like known as kind of like he's a really solid guy. But also like, you know, his parents were going through a little bit of a tough time. You know, he didn't have a lot of disposable income. And kind of like the neighborhood or basically the kids who lived near Calvin. Calvin lived in like a neighborhood that was like mostly middle class, but it was kind of lower middle class. Clyde was kind of like an exception to the rule where his parents made it really big. But most people there didn't. Most people were actually underwater a little bit. And this kid who we're about to talk about in a second was no exception. But he was also known as just being a really genuine guy. And so, you know, Clyde's there. And this kid has his backpack on with him, I think because, like, I don't know, he had, like, a project he wanted to work on, or he just didn't want to, like, put it somewhere, then pick it up later for class. For some reason, right, this kid had his backpack on him. And, you know, his backpack was pretty worn. This guy's had it since, like, you know, his first day in preschool or something, or kindergarten. And it's really worn out. It's kind of tattered. It's stained at this point. And Clyde, right, I guess he just never really noticed it or thought to say anything. But Clyde starts making fun of this kid for, like, how, like, kind of, like, messed up his backpack is at this point. And Clyde's like, oh my god, dude, why don't you just get a new backpack? That one's disgusting. I bet there's a disease festering on that backpack. I bet that there's a whole host of new diseases that could probably be named after you because they were invented on your backpack. Just going off like that, right? And then like all the kids around him start looking at Clyde like, dude, what would you like shut up. And Clyde is like, what? I'm spitting facts, guys. This backpack sucks. And everyone's like, dude, just like, you know, like, go away for a second. And Clyde's like, what? Whatever. At least my backpack is cool. And he goes away, right? And so the kids are like, yo, sorry. Like, Clyde's being an extra jerk today. And the kid with the backpack's like, dude, I literally don't care. Like, this kid had a lot of good character, man. He was just like, he really didn't let it affect him. He was actually probably one of the kids who was, like, the least tilted by, like, everything that Clyde did. But, you know, he's this good kid, good character. Anyways, right, Clyde comes back with his backpack, which, like, he bought, like, you know, 2 weeks ago or something. So it's new, no stains on it, looking good. And Clyde's like, oh, this backpack's so heavy. I'm just going to put it down for a sec. Takes his backpack off, puts it in front of everyone's like, oh, yeah, I just got this backpack a couple weeks ago. It's super cool. And everyone's like, all right, Clyde. Like, all right, buddy. And then the bell rings. So they all go back inside. And then after school, they all kind of get together besides Clyde. And except for the kid who had the backpack, because he didn't really want to be a part of this. But basically, right, the subscriber, Calvin, he called together a bunch of kids at his school who were at the recess. And he said, look, I know that Clyde has always been kind of a jerk face, but, like, this is a whole new level, dude. Like, oh my god. Like, he's really getting worse and worse. And if we don't do anything, guys, if we just stand here and we don't do anything, he's only going to get worse. And honestly, like, recess is, like, our only real escape from class. And he's kind of making it suck as well. And if I have to do this 5 days a week, then I want to make sure that these 5 days a week, I have at least one little escape, and that is recess, where Clyde does not mess everything up. So what the group decided was they were going to confront Clyde the next day. tell him basically that he was being a jerk and that if he doesn't stop, they were basically going to banish him from hanging out with them. They would like boycott him, and that like if he was going to act that way, he'd have to hang out by himself. And Clyde didn't have a lot of friends. In fact, these kids weren't really his friends, but they were like his acquaintances, and his acquaintances were the only thing Clyde had, at least at this school. So the next day at recess, Clyde's kind of like sitting out there waiting for the kids, and all the other kids, everyone's kind of late, and Clyde's like, oh, I wonder where they went. I wonder why they're all late. Then all the kids come out in the group, and they're like, Clyde, we need to talk. Today's secret word / phrase is backpack. So if you made it this far into the video, I'd like you to go down in the comment section right now and comment backpack. I just like seeing how many people made it this far into the video. I really appreciate the watch time, as that helps the channel a lot. And also, I will do my very best to heart as many comments that have backpack in them as possible, or just literally just comment backpack. You don't have to be creative. It's okay. If anything, that's easier for me to heart. But I can't heart them all. I do spend like over an hour every single day total on my phone hearting comments, but there's just been so much support recently, which I'm so grateful for. But at the same time, it also means I can't heart everything, so please don't feel bad. But if you want your best chance of getting a heart, farming some hearts, and maybe getting top commenter in the channel, comment backpack down below. Also, dude, today is actually the luckiest day of your life, because every single person who leaves a like on today's video will actually receive nothing at all. No, you don't have to get your ears checked. You heard me correct. I am so generous that if you leave a like on the video right now, I will give you nothing. Not a zip, nothing. You're welcome in advance. Leave a like. Yeah. Anyways, Calvin, the subscriber, and all the kids walk up to Clyde and say, hey, Clyde, we gotta talk. And basically what they say to him is, hey, dude, like, you've always been kind of a jerk. Like, they're not being, okay, to be fair, they're definitely not being nice to him in this confrontation, but they're mad at this point. They're like, we always know you've been kind of a jerk. You're always kind of like abrasive. But recently, you've really just been going over the top. And here's the deal. And they give like the two examples I actually just gave in the video. And they're like, here's the deal, dude. If you keep on acting like this, we're not going to hang out with you. And we're not just like not going to actively hang out with you. We're actually going to bear you from hanging out with you. Like, we're going to bar you from entry. We're going to make sure that if you come to us, we're going to walk away. And if you somehow corner us in a room and try to talk to us, we will turn around and not talk to you. So here's the deal, Clyde. We're totally fine with, you hanging out with us if you're not a jerk to us, basically. But in the meantime, we're not going to talk to you until you fix your attitude. And remember, guys, you have to remember, Clyde had never really been told no in his life. He was one of those kids. Yeah, I guess like he literally had received no's and rejections. Like, I'm sure he's failed tests. I'm sure he's been literally told no. But basically, right, he's been told yes to everything. He's never gotten a real no. And being gets called out like this. And look, to be fair, it was a bit of a harsh call out, but he definitely deserved it. He completely snapped. Like, his face gets all bright and red like a big old tomato. And he looks at one of these kids. No, he looks at Calvin, right? He looks at Calvin, who basically was the one leading this thing. And Calvin was the one who told him these words basically directly. And he looks at Calvin and spits at him. Oh my God, I spit all over my phone. He just like spits at him, and he's so mad. And he turns to another kid in his rage, and he was like, kid. He says his actual name. I don't know. I don't feel like giving more names. He's like, kid, your parents are terrible people. They're disgusting, man, because they're so poor. They don't make any money. You know how much money my parents make, man? You know how much money my parents make? After spitting on Calvin, calling another kid's parents terrible because they're poor, and just basically fuming from the mouth, just spewing and just like getting so mad, he goes over to another kid and just pushes him over, dude. He just goes up to him and just pushes him over and starts storming off. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. There was a teacher watching this whole thing go down. Yeah, there's a teacher that was watching the whole thing. She couldn't hear everything, but she did see, Clyde spit at some kid, basically, just chew another kid out, and then push a kid. And pushing the kid was the last straw where she came in. And she was like, Clyde, come with me. And Clyde's like, yeah, right. And, she just like walks off with Clyde. And then she turns out to the group of kids and is like, I need one or a couple of you to come with me and just explain what happened. Yeah, so it was Calvin and like two other kids, right? They decide to, walk with the teacher. and Clyde, who's still like screaming and like crying and bawling and just like having a complete absolute breakdown, right? And they go to the, the teacher's office or the principal's office or wherever, right? And they explain what happens. And Clyde isn't denying anything. Clyde isn't saying they're all lying, man. They're all lying. At this point, he's just worn out. He's done. He's defeated. He's just like so like shocked by the fact that they retaliated. He didn't even bother to say anything that wasn't true. So yeah, when the teacher's like, oh my God, because the kids really explain everything Clyde had done at that point. And the teacher's like, oh my God. And she's like, Clyde, like, I'm not going to suspend, like, your punishment isn't for the stuff you said, which was terrible, but you basically assaulted a student. You can't do that. You can't push a kid and spit on a kid. You're suspended for a week. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. There's some on screen, so just click them. Click when the video... Why have you clicked in one of the videos yet, dude? Oh my God.
I got a story time for you guys about this entitled kid who had a pretty crazy meltdown. And you guys seem to love these videos. And honestly, I think this one might be the best one yet. I know that's a pretty big thing to say since we've had some pretty popular hits, but this one might be my favorite. Anyways, sit back, relax, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, and enjoy. So we're going to call the subscriber who sent in today's story, we're going to call him Jake. And by the way, send in stories to my Instagram. You can be featured on the channel. And also, I'm choosing these names from the comments. So comment names you want me to feature. It can even be your own name, yada, yada. Anyways, right, Jake, the subscriber, sent in this story about this time that, he and his parents went to an amusement park or a carnival type place, where it had a bunch of rides, kind of like a fair type thing, but bigger. I don't know exactly what to categorize it as, but it's kind of like one of those type events. And this was like a thing that like this like event fair came every single year, and it was a thing that, Jake and his family always loved to do every single summer. And yeah, at this fair, you're going to see a pretty crazy encounter that is my favorite. I think it is legitimately my favorite. Anyways, right, so, it's that time of the year where the carnival, if I call it a fair or a carnival or a festival or whatever, it's all kind of the same thing. It's like an amusement park that comes into town. So, the carnival comes, once a year, and once again, it's that time of year. It comes in July, and it's like always like a fun event for everyone in like the town and the neighboring towns and neighborhoods to go out to, because it's kind of like, it's a pretty cool pop-up event. They got a lot of cool rides. They got a lot of cool like food and activities and stuff, and it only is there for a week before they pack up, which is part of like the allure. They go from like city to city or whatever. Anyways, right, so Jake and his parents, they're driving down, and it's pretty exciting, and they're talking to each other about all the rides they want to hit, because it's kind of like same rides every single year. So they get down there, right, and they go to the main, and they go to kind of like the main place where you buy the tickets. And this is where the first encounter, not the last encounter, let me just let you know, this is not the last encounter, but this is the first encounter with this kid. And we're going to call him Jordan. This was also a name that was given to me in the comments, so comment name. So anyways, we're going to call this kid Jordan. Anyways, right, so Jake and his parents, they're standing in line to get tickets. And, there's only one line, and the line is pretty long because, it's a pretty popular event. And, Jordan and his parents kind of are aware of this because, every year the line is really long. It probably is going to take like 10, 20, 25 plus minutes just to get their tickets. But it's just part of the process. It's just part of like the experience. And since they've been there so many times in the past, they just know it's coming. But anyways, right, there's no like special VIP priority line. There's no line that you can pay extra in and be able to scoot ahead faster. Let me just say that those lines are so fun. Like, I feel like such a jerk getting in those and like walking by everyone else. But like, hey man, if it's only like $10, like, time value of money, bro. But anyways, right, there's no like VIP line. There's no line that can get you into like in there faster. Every single person is going to pay the same amount for the ticket, and every single person is going to wait the same amount of time to stand in line. But anyways, right, Jake and his family are, they're there, they're just like standing in line, and they're standing behind this new family that they've never seen before. They must be new to the neighborhood, or they maybe are out of state or out of town, whatever, coming into the festival, because I don't know, they've been suggested it. And here's the thing, we never get a name for this kid, or, Jordan, or Jake, not Jordan. Jake told me that he didn't know this kid's name, which is totally fine, because I don't ever use the real names anyways, so we're going to call this kid Jordan. So Jordan and his family, Jake's family don't recognize, and they're standing in front of Jake's family. And right away, Jordan is like, Mom, do I have to wait with all these people? And, Jake in his head's just like, bro, what do you mean by these people, bro? You're one of these people now. He's like, Mom,
Can you just pay them money so we can go in there faster? And at this point, Jake's just kind of like, he's kind of laughing to himself a little bit. He's like, bro, this kid, crazy, could never be me. And, this is the beginning. This is your taste of an introduction to this kid, Jordan, because it's not the largest fair ever. There's a pretty big line and there's a lot of people there. But, Jake, he does run into Jordan a few more times and it just escalates every single time. This is just a little taste. Jordan doesn't want to be in the line. He wants his mom to pay for him to be in a faster line. But this is nothing compared to what's coming. Anyways, right, so, Jake and his family and Jordan and his family, they wait in the line. There's no special fancy line they can go into to kind of jumpstart the process. Anyways, they're waiting in the line and eventually they get in. Because believe it or not, if you just wait, you'll get in a line. Wow, crazy concept, I know. Anyways, right, so they kind of go their separate ways. And it's actually a little while before Jake and his family end up seeing Jordan's family again. So, Jake and his family, they go on some of the rides that they want to go to. They stop at a food place they want to go to. They stop at all, like, a bunch of places on their list that they want to go to. And the next place that they want to go to is kind of like this pretty big ride where it's like, it's pretty cool. It's like a pretty big drop and it's like it's not the main attraction. There's a lot of reasons to come to this place, but it's probably one of the more popular attractions and therefore will also probably have one of the bigger lines. And what do you know, right? When Jake and his family, they get into line, instead of being, behind Jordan and his family, they're the ones in front now, and Jordan and his family are behind Jake and his family. And at first, Jake didn't totally, think that much about it, but he did, look back and see who was standing behind them, and he did recognize this kid, Jordan, just because he thought the comment of, Mom, why can't you buy me into a faster line was kind of funny. So he just kind of, remembered it. But, he didn't really think that much of this kid until, this kid started going off again. Anyways, so Jake is standing in line with his parents, and he hears once again Jordan whining behind him. Instead of being like, Mom, can't we pay to be in a faster line? Jordan's like, do I really have to wait in a line with all these smelly people? and Jake is just thinking to himself, bro, you're not looking too clean yourself. If you're calling me smelly, of all people, I showered. I didn't dress up for this. I'm not in black tie attire or anything, but I'm looking decent. I'm smelling fine. Why did you just call me and everyone else smelly people, bro? If anything, you're looking a little dirty today. You're looking a little scuffed right now. If anything, bro, just keeping it straight with you right now. But anyways, right, Jordan keeps going on man, I wish they had mom, the height requirements. And the mom's like, yes, sweetie. And Jordan goes, I wish they had how expensive your shoes requirements so that all the dirty people. And at this point, Jake's just like, hey, yo, what the fuck? Hey, what the fuck? Hey, this kid is out of pocket, bro. That's crazy. And, this kid Jordan is like, and then there'd be if your shoes are this expensive or not, you can ride only so that I don't have to be around as many people that are less clean than us. And at this point, right, Jake was just like, what the fuck? This kid, bro. This kid, and credit to Jordan's mom. I mean, zero credit for raising your son like this, because at the end of the day, these kids weren't that old. I don't know exactly the ages, but I'm going to guess 11, 12, 13. So a lot of their actions at the end of the day are on the parents, but a little credit to the mom for being hey, Jordan, you can't be saying that that's rude to the other people. And of course, she didn't reprimand him anything beyond that. She wasn't oh, you're not allowed to go on this line or this ride or anything. She just said, hey, don't say that. That's, I mean, okay, to be fair, that punishment wasn't that good, but at least she wasn't agreeing with him. So at this point, right, Jake is looking back at his family and his mom and dad are looking at him with because, this kid Jordan is very loud, and he's right behind them. So obviously, Jake and his parents just look at each other hey, yo, what is that? What did we stumble upon? Oh my God. And Jake's dad just starts laughing a little bit, looking at him just because it's just so ridiculous, right? It's just so ridiculous. And you thought the ridiculousness ended there. You are sadly, sadly mistaken. Speaking of carnivals, today's secret word is carnival, so comment carnival if you made it this far into the video. I just like to see how many people made it this far, and I'll do my best to heart a bunch of comments that say carnival. No guarantees, because I'm trying to have a life and also not fail school, do a pretty good job. I'm a bit of a hardo, but anyways, right, also, just so you know, today's your lucky day, because for every single person who leaves a like on today's video, they will receive absolutely nothing, which is a fantastic deal. And if you're feeling extra cool while you're down there leaving a like, also turn on notification, that lovely notification bell, because YouTube's very nice to me right now, but sometimes they're not. So if you want to always make sure you see my videos, make sure notifications are turned on. With that being said, back to the kid who's about to do something pretty crazy. Anyways, the final scene, the final meltdown, the most epic part of this whole story. The whole story so far has been pretty good. It's been a top spoiled kid story so far. But this final scene cements it, in my opinion, as like the spoiled kid story on the channel. You guys can disagree with me. I think this one's pretty good though. But anyways, the final scene is in the gift shop. Yes, every place, every carnival, every store, everything needs a gift shop, man. I mean, you got to commoditize the commodity at this point. You got to milk all the money out of it. It is what it is. And you can get some cool knickknacks. Like it's win-win here. But anyways, right? So, once again, Jake, and his family have been going around and they find themselves in the gift shop, and then, once again, I said the once again prematurely, but once again, Jordan and his family are already in there. So, Jake and his family are just like, they're not going to like stalk these people. First of all, they don't even like this kid that much, and they probably don't like the parents for even allowing this behavior to occur. Like, sure, Jordan's mom was like, Jordan, don't say that, but come on, dude. That's not even a slap on a wrist. That's like less than, I can't think of, a feather on a wrist, bro. Like that's even less. Anyways, right, so Jake and his family, they're in the gift shop. They're looking around, and they're kind of just there to check it out. Maybe they'll get one thing, maybe, right? Whatever. But they could just might as well just go in there to look at the fun things and just have a good time. At the end of the day, since Jake is a normal kid, he doesn't really care. It doesn't really matter. But they happen to get kind of close enough in the store to overhear Jordan and his parents in the gift shop. So Jake turns around and he sees that, Jordan is holding a bag full of all these items, and they're not small little collectible things you might get by the cash register. I mean, these are big, these are really big things. I don't know exactly what they are. I don't know if the fair had a theme or something, and if these things follow the theme, but this was a hefty sum of money. This would probably be half a band worth of stuff. That's just the assumption right here. And Jordan is hey mom, I'm ready to check out, and the mom takes one look at this bag, and it's hey, Jordan, I don't think we should be spending that much money in the gift shop here. And Jordan is what do you mean? We can definitely afford it. Are we going broke? And Jordan's mom's no, but I just don't think this is a good way to spend our money, right? It's not the fact that we couldn't buy this. It's just I don't think this is a good way to do it. Totally valid, right? Totally valid claim. And then this kid, Jordan, just snaps for some reason. He's if you don't get me this stuff, that means you don't love me, because I know you can, and I know you're choosing not to because you don't want to see me happy. And he's on the verge of tears. In fact, he's choking up a little bit at this point. And Jake is completely thrown off guard because he does a 180 so quickly, dude. He wasn't he was pretty common, he was calm and collected when he asked for this stuff. And within 30 seconds after getting an explanation, he's basically just bawling and calling his parents awful people because they wouldn't buy him the big bag of $500 worth of gift store stuff that he wanted. And then he starts going around. What he does is he tries to guilt trip his parents, because his parents haven't even responded yet. But what he does is he goes up to a random guy and goes up to them and is my parents, they don't love me. And at this point, Jake is just what the fuck? Is this kid insane? Is this kid okay? Is this acceptable behavior? Do his parents allow this? Is this a one-time offense? Oh my God. And Jake and his parents watch as probably the worst thing possible happens. And you might be thinking, oh my God, like, did a meteor come out of the sky and blow them all to bits? No, 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 no. No, no, no. Even worse. Even worse. You know what happened? The parents give in. Oh, it's awful, dude. It's awful. The parents are like, oh, sweetie, we do love you. You know what? On second thought, we'll buy you the gift bag. And, Jake and his, like, especially Jake's dad is just, like, standing there with his, like, hands on top of his head, like, no. Almost like, dads when they watch, like, their son's football game and, like, there's a bad pass and they all, like, put their hands on top of their heads and make this face. That's the face he was making because, like, the parents just probably made one of the worst passes in the history of football. I mean, parenting. And Jake and his family watch in horror as, Jordan and his parents go to the checkout line and Jordan's parents buy Jordan everything he wanted, and they left the store. And Jake and his parents had quite a conversation on their car ride back, just reflecting on how not to be a parent and, when Jake, because he wanted kids, what he was not going to do. Basically, whatever those parents just did. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and now go click on another video. Helps me out. Go watch one right now, or I don't know. I'll be sad. Today I have a story time of probably the most spoiled girl of all time, that when she got a present that wasn't exactly what she wanted, but still was pretty good, she completely freaked out, and it was pretty hilarious. So yeah, sit back, relax, leave a like on the video for free nothing, and let's get right into it. So the subscriber who sent in today's story, we're gonna call him Nathan. By the way, I get all the names from my stories for the comments, so leave a comment of a name you'd like. And also, if you want to send in a story like Nathan did, you can do so either to my Instagram in the description or join the Discord server and send it there. That is also in the description. Anyways, right, so Nathan had this friend, or friend in quotation marks, because, like, Nathan wasn't, like, super close with her. But when you guys are in, like, first grade or second grade, or even, I think Nathan said he was in, like, 4th or 5th grade at this point. But when you're younger, right, if someone goes to your school and your school is small enough, Nathan's class was, like, 25, 30 people. So when your class is that small, you're kind of like default friends with everyone. Like, you might not actually hang out with them that much, but by default, you're just kind of friends with them. Yeah, so there was this girl, and her name was Audrey, right? Also got that name from the comments, so go. Anyways, right. So this girl's name was Audrey, and, Nathan didn't actually really like her that much. She was kind of a little entitled, and by a little, I mean a lot. And just the way she acted, just, the girls were friends with her because, like, all the girls were literally friends with every single girl in that grade. Like, Nathan was telling me in that class, every single girl was always close with every other girl in that class. Like, it was unlike anything he's ever seen or anything I've ever seen, right? But Nathan, he was never super close with Audrey, but still, since they were in the class together, he was invited to Audrey's birthday party. And at the birthday party, right, Nathan honestly just got another reason not to like her, but we'll get into that in just a second. So the day before Audrey's birthday party, which Nathan was invited to, Nathan and his mom go out to, I don't know, Target or some kind of, like, shop or something, and they try and find something to buy Audrey because, like, the email didn't say don't bring gifts, and when the email doesn't say don't bring gifts, it kind of implies, hey, bro, it's a birthday party. You better be bringing my daughter a gift, dude. But anyways, they go around, and, Nathan's mom's like, Nathan, do you have any idea, like, what Audrey would like? And Nathan's like, Mom, I have no idea. And she's like, all right, fair enough. So, Nathan's mom, picked out something that she thought, Audrey would like. And Audrey's mom didn't even send out, like, a list of stuff people should get, which is a little tip. If your parents ever ask, like, you should tell your parents to do this. If you have a birthday party, tell your parents a list of stuff that's affordable, that you would like, and you'll actually probably get more presents you actually enjoy. Anyways, right, so, Nathan's mom picks out something that is, not super expensive, but it's, like, it's good enough, right? And it works out. Nathan looks at it, he's like, oh, that sounds like something Audrey might like. Obviously having no idea what you'd like, but, whatever. Especially with, like, birthday parties, you're going to get a lot of stuff that you don't actually like / use, but you just have to get over yourself and say thank you. But anyways, right, so they go back home, and by the next day rolls around, it's Audrey's birthday party. And that was, like, a Saturday, I think. I think Friday night was the night that they went out and bought stuff. But on that Saturday, it was the day of Audrey's party. And, yeah, Nathan was, getting a little excited, man. Not because he necessarily liked Audrey, but because, hey, bro, it was a party. It was a birthday party. His friends were going to be there. There were going to be activities. There's going to be cake, probably. Like, Audrey's house was pretty nice. Like, he's able to chill there. Like, bro, it was going to be a good day, or so we thought.
Since the party is going to be like very, very interesting, I don't want to interrupt the flow of it, so I'm going to have the secret word now. Comment Nathan if you made it this far. Yeah, most people are going to comment spoiled and not think anything else and get caught, but no, comment Nathan if you made it this far. I'll filter the comments and try and heart as many as I can that say Nathan. So yeah, if you want to heart, comment Nathan down below, and while you're down there, leave a like, join the Discord server. And anyways, it's officially here. The party. Audrey's party is officially upon us, fellas. It's officially here. So, right, Nathan's mom, drives him up. And parents were also invited to the party. They were going to stay in kind of a separate place. Not a separate place, but they weren't going to obviously hang out with the kids. But Nathan was pretty excited, man. So he gets out of the car, and Nathan's mom's like, oh, don't forget to bring the gift. So Nathan holds on to the gift. It's all wrapped up or whatever. And they go to the door, and Audrey's mom's like, oh, thank you so much for coming. Like, oh, I can take that for you. Thank you so much. Like, whatever, right? Standard mom stuff. I love moms. Anyways, right, so, they're just like, Nathan walks in and he finds his friends, and Audrey's hanging out with all the other girls. And, they're all kind of friendly, but at this point, Nathan and his friends are kind of like, they're kind of doing their own thing, but it's not, like, awkward that they're doing it. It makes total sense. So Nathan does admit that the party's actually pretty fun at first. Like, everyone's having a pretty good time. I mean, before the event happens, which, like, big quotations around the event. Nathan and his friends are hanging out, cake is served. Like, actually, no, cake is not served. That's served later, because that's a whole event as well. But anyways, right, there's, like, some punch. There's, like, some snacks. They're out. Like, Audrey has a pretty nice backyard. I mean, she's got a pretty good house anyway, so there's, like, a lot of activities to do. I think there's, like, a swing set or something. So Nathan and his friends are having a pretty good time, bro. They're kind of having a blast. And all of a sudden, right, Audrey's mom kind of like yells out, being like, all right, guys, it's cake time. And, after cake time is present time, which is even worse than cake time, but we're getting to that in a second. Don't worry. So anyways, they all walk in, and, the Audrey's mom is like, all right, guys, when Audrey walks in, we all need to sing happy birthday to her. She's going to blow out the candles and make a wish, and then you can all have cake, but we're going to give it to her first because she's the birthday girl. Standard stuff, right? So anyways, right, Nathan and all of his friends, they gather around, and, Audrey walks in, and she's like, oh my God, there's cake or whatever. And everyone's like, happy. I'm not going to sing to you guys. You got to pay for that on my OnlyFriends. But anyways, right, everyone's singing, like, happy birthday, and then, she goes up and she's, like so excited. She's like, oh, yay, cake, whatever. And Nathan's just like, bro, I'm trying to eat some cake, bro. And yeah, she blows out the candles and is like, all right, cake time. So, she gets a piece of cake. And then she's like, is that it? Because like her mom was cutting the cake. She's like, yeah, Audrey, that's a pretty big piece. And she's like, no, I want that piece too. And everyone's like, okay. And Audrey's mom's like, all right, sure, you can have that piece too. And she's like, good. And then just takes both pieces of cake and walks away. And it was just a little weird. This was not the bad part at all, but it's just like a precursor to something crazy, right? So everyone's like, okay, that was a little weird. Like, okay, that's fine. But they all get their cake. They're having a pretty good time. And this is where everything just completely falls apart. Present time. Oh, man, bro. Present time is the time where whatever you get for a present, you have to be respectful, you have to pretend to be enthusiastic, even if you aren't, and you have to give everyone the same treatment. If someone gives you a 24-karat gold Rolex, or if someone gives you a birthday card with a smiley face in it, you need to look equally excited. That's the thing to do. It's very hard, trust me. I was a kid once, believe it or not. I did not just come out of the womb like this, like as a grown 50-year-old man. I'm 19, I'm not 50. So anyways, right, Audrey's mom's like, all right, guys, it's present time. So, Audrey sits down and everyone kind of like gathers around. And the whole idea was that you were able to like walk over and hand Audrey your present. And yeah, so it began. And first, Audrey's friends were like, went over, handed the present. And Audrey was like genuinely excited for the presents. Like, she acted like, oh my gosh, like started like unwrapping them and taking them out of the box, because like Audrey's friends knew exactly what she wanted, right? She knew exactly what she wanted because they were Audrey's friends. They were close with her. So Audrey was in a very good mood at this point, and she's just like, oh man, this birthday's so great. And then some of the guys went over and gave her presents, and she just opened them, and she had this blank expression, and Audrey's mom had to step and say, thank you so much for that. She loves it. Audrey just had a blank expression expression, bro. She didn't even say thanks. She just like put it to the side and reached for the next present, bro. And at this point, Nathan was like starting to sweat because he's like, dude, there's no shot she reacts well to my present. And yeah, it's officially Nathan's turn to go up, and Nathan's like, all right, here goes nothing. He grabs the present, walks up. Audrey like kind of is like looking at it like with some anticipation, unwraps the wrapping paper, looks at it, looks up at Nathan and says, seriously? Like, she actually says seriously, bro. She looks at him, is just like, seriously, dude? Seriously? And at this point, Audrey's mom's like, Nathan, thank you so much. Audrey loves it, doesn't she? And Audrey's just like, this is like, no one plays with these anymore. It was like some kind of doll or something. And Audrey's mom's like, Nathan, thank you so much. We love it. Thank you so much. And starts to like push him away. Like starts to push Nathan back because she's like, oh my God, we gotta move on. We gotta get this show on the road. And Audrey just like, Audrey doesn't even put this toy, like this was probably like the worst one yet. Because like for some reason she was almost insulted by this one because it was like an old doll they used to play with a lot back in like 2nd grade, not 4th grade. They're big kids now, man. But anyway, she was almost like insulted by this one. So instead of like putting it to the side like the other one she wasn't interested with, she literally, like people have done in cartoons, tossed it behind her and it like flew out of the box, snapped in two. Like it was a whole disaster. It was a whole scene. And Audrey's mom is just doing damage control at this point. She's like, oh, okay, I think it's time for the big present. And at this point, Audrey's like, oh, the big present? I think I know what it is. And she's like, oh, I don't know if you know what it is. So the whole thing, right? No one had a phone yet because they're just in 4th grade. And at this point, I think it was like iPhone 7 was like the big deal or whatever. That was like the new phone that came out. But the iPhone 6 was still pretty popular. It was still like a very solid phone. And yeah, Audrey's mom was going to like give her the big present that she didn't say what it was, but Audrey knew it was like the new iPhone 7. She was going to give her the big present at her birthday and it was going to be a huge surprise or whatever. So Audrey's like so excited at this point because she's about to get the new iPhone in front of everyone and everyone's going to see her get the new iPhone and she's going to be the coolest and the bestest and you know how it goes. So Audrey's mom kind of in like damage control to kind of like take away from the reaction Audrey just had to Nathan's gift. It's like, all right, it's time. And Audrey's so excited at this point. So she kind of like reaches out her hands and Audrey's mom hands her, you know, a very obviously wrapped phone case, right? And so Audrey's like quickly tears it open. And the look on her face goes from like super excited to like horror, bro. You know why it was horror? Because it wasn't an iPhone 7. It was an iPhone 6. Nah, bro, I'm not even trolling. I'm not even trolling. The worst thing that could have possibly happened was in front of everyone, she was embarrassed by her mother because instead of getting the iPhone 7, man, she got the iPhone 6, bro. And Audrey looks up at her mom. She's like, Mom, this doesn't look like the iPhone 7. She's like, oh, yeah, it's an iPhone. It's iPhone 6. It's like very good. It's like the one I have. And Audrey like starts to like well up and she's like, my birthday went downhill, man. She's like, ever since Nathan gave me that terrible present, Nathan's like, bro, why did you bring me, bro? And she's like, then you embarrassed me in front of all my friends. And then Audrey gets up and runs out of the room, sprints out of the room upstairs to her room, locks the door, and is like obviously like very loudly crying, like doing it like loud on purpose for attention. At this point, Nathan's like, bro, I knew I didn't like this girl. I knew I didn't like her. But now I have a solid reason. Let's go. No, but seriously, he was like, bro, you cannot be, you gotta be kidding me, dude. And all the moms were kind of looking at each other like, Audrey's mom, I think you gotta go back to parenting school because what is this? And yeah, sure enough, right, you know, Audrey just never comes back downstairs for the duration of the party. And the party obviously ends early because the parents are like, haha, kids, let's get out of here. And like, even Nathan's mom was like, all right, Nathan, I know this is fun, but we got to scoot. Nathan was like, he was like honestly having a good time with his friends after the whole fiasco because they were just chilling outside, but he totally understood that this might not be the place to be long term. So he's like, all right, Mom, let's go. So he gets in the car and Nathan's mom's like, you know what, Nathan, sometimes you mess up. Sometimes, you know, you talk back to me. Sometimes you don't study for tests. Sometimes you disobey my rules, but I'm so thankful for you. And this party just like
really solidifies how good of a kid you are. Nathan starts laughing. He's like, no problem, Mom. Love you too. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some that recommended. Watch it. You'll make me happy. Thanks.
Today
bye.
we got a story of this rich mom who shames a poor mom, but thankfully, karma, which is very real, strikes back. Subscribe if you're new and you enjoy story videos. Sit back, relax, and let's just jump into this. I'm going to call today's subscriber who submitted this story to me, I'm going to call her April. And I'm going to call her April because I'm a big Parks and Rec fan, but also it's a good name, man. Anyways, right, so this all happened one day when the school that April went to was having a bake sale. The whole idea of the bake sale was that parents who wanted to participate would come in and bake something and put it out on this kind of like the bake sale, and then other people, including those parents if they wanted to, could go around and buy other people's pastries or desserts or whatever they baked, and the money would go to, I think, like the school's fund for teaching supplies. It was for a good cause and was related to the school. So anyways, right, April lived in a family where, you know, she had a single family household. It was just her mother, and her mother was working multiple jobs just to make sure that, you know, April and her had a decent enough childhood, and that April had a decent enough childhood and that they could make it through. And so for that reason, right, April's mom did not have a lot of time on her hands. When you're working like 2 to 3 jobs, you do not have a lot of time on your hands. Even if they are all part-time jobs, it's still very difficult. But April really wanted her mom to participate in this, as April was telling her mom that, oh, all my other friends' moms are doing this or whatever. And this happened like 4 or 5 years ago, for a little bit of context. And April's mom was like, well, you know, your friends' moms might have more time than I do. And, you know, April said that she understood, but April's mom saw that April, you know, she was a little disappointed and she wanted her mom to do it. So April's mom decided that, you know what, like, yeah, I don't have a lot of time. I might not have time to bake it, but I'll just go and buy some pastry from, I don't know, a supermarket. It's not gonna be the greatest thing ever, but at least I'm gonna show up with something. So the day eventually happens, and April goes to school, expecting her mom not to show up with anything, right? And sure enough, the time of the bake sale, which is happening after school when people normally get picked up, it begins, and April kind of walks out just expecting to be picked up by her mom, and April's watching as all of her classmates go over and, you know, see their parents with all their like baked goods or whatever standing around, having other people go and buy their stuff, and knowing that, you know, the proceeds from this will go to the school supplies, and April was feeling a little bit down. And that's when she heard her name. She heard April, April, and April looks up and she looks over at the stand and she sees her mom. And April was completely surprised, man. I mean, she was like, wow, what are you doing here, Mom? So she runs over and asks her mom, like, what is she doing here? And April's mom's like, well, I thought I'd be a little surprised, but I did eventually show up with I showed up with some good stuff. I showed up with some bakeries. I thought I would, you know, come and help out. I know how much you wanted me to be here. And April was just full of happiness, full of joy or whatever. And April's mom got like some cake that was made at a grocery store or whatever. So obviously it was not like the greatest cake ever, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's really just the thought that counts. And so while people were going around, they were getting slices of people's cake or pie or whatever they baked. And, you know, they paid the money, which would go to the school supplies or whatever. Eventually, this woman came over to April's mom's cake. And this woman was very clearly one that, you know, had a lot of money, you know, and it was pretty clear. She had bought quite a few things from the other stands, and she was adorned with jewelry. You already know how it is, but sure enough, she walks over to April's mom's cake and looks at it, and she's like, wait a minute. And the thing is, this woman, we're just going to call her the Karen because it really was what she was. So Karen over here notices, she recognizes the cake from the grocery store. And she's like, she looks up at April's mom and is like, you didn't bake this. You bought this from the grocery store. And she says it loud enough that like the other moms turn and look at her. And April looks up. And April didn't really care where the cake came from, but she was noticing that a scene was starting to start. A scene was starting to start. Wow, I'm so great at English, guys. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. I just want to see how many people made it this far. And if you want to support the channel, just binge watch some videos. Watch a bunch of them in one sitting, maybe while you're playing video games or drawing art or whatever you want to do. And let me know in the comment section if you do that. Thank you. Let's get... sorry, this burped. I'm not going to cut that out because it's authentic. I don't know, man. Anyways, let's get back to the story. So anyways, right, the Karen has walked over to April's mom's stand, looks at the cake, and realizes that the cake is bought from some grocery store or something. And the Karen's like, you really didn't have the time out of your day to bake something. Instead, you decided to buy some cheap cake. Do you even care about this school? Which, first of all, this was a voluntary thing. A lot of the parents didn't even show up to do this. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyways, enough of my interjection. And sure enough, the Karen goes on to say, like, everyone else here put their blood, sweat, and tears into their pastries and cakes. And you came over here and bought a cheap cake instead. And this is outrageous. This is ridiculous. And April's mom, not trying to, like, start a scene or anything, politely responds, like, no, I did not make this cake. Yes, I did buy it. However, like, I don't have, like, any time on my hands at all. And this Karen is like, and you think I have a lot of time on my hands? I have to pick up my child every single day. And I go to a lot of these parent meetings. I'm actually the head of the woman for insert town name. And we have a lot of meetings and planning. Like, I am incredibly busy. And I had to change my entire schedule just to do this. You could have done the same. And obviously, right, different situations right here. And April's mom is just not really trying to, she's not trying to start a fight. She's not trying to embarrass her daughter, which, good on her. Even though if I was April's mom, I'd be like, well, I have something for you to say. And I wouldn't actually do that. I'm not confrontational like that. But all the other parents were kind of looking over like, oh boy, starting a scene. Miss Karen started another scene again. And the Karen's like, this is just so disrespectful. And she said, you know what? Give me a piece of that cake. I'm going to see how it is. And she hands money, and April's mom's like, okay, like, fine. April's mom takes the money because she knows the money's going to a good cause. And then, the Karen takes a bit of the cake, takes a fork, puts it in her mouth, and has the most over-exaggerated reaction of all time. Her eyes widen. She starts to gag. She's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And she just goes, spitting it out, spraying bits of cake everywhere. It was actually quite disgusting. And she's like, oh my God, that is the worst thing I've ever tasted. You must hate the children here. You must have no respect for anyone. And she walks away and she's like, oh, I can't even be here anymore. And she starts to like waddle away all mad and angry. And so April's just standing there. Super embarrassing moment. It's not really just her embarrassed, but it's just a really uncomfortable moment, right? And yeah, it's pretty bad. And April's mom looks down at April and says, don't worry about that lady. Like, not everyone's going to like our cake or whatever. And sure enough, they get back up and they're greeted by actually a good scene. This story does not end on a terrible ending because all the other parents who were kind of like around the place and they were listening in, they all lined up and the first person line said, I would like to have a piece of your cake, please. And the thing is, right, this wasn't accidental. April and April's mom knew that like all the people that were in line, they all just left their stands, as all the stands next to them that were normally occupied by these people were not. And most likely what happened was they heard the altercation, they felt really bad for April's mom and April, and they decided they'd get in line and, get it like the cake or whatever. So sure enough, they all went through the line, and by the end of it, the entire cake was gone. Everyone bought all of it, and they were like, well, thank you so much for the cake. It's so good. Like, oh, you raised all this money. And, April's mom shows April all the money they raised, shows that the cake is gone. April's in a good mood again. But don't think that this story ends here, because I said karma happens. Karma doesn't mean someone does a bad thing to someone and then a good thing happens to someone else. That might happen. Karma means if someone does a bad thing, something bad happens right back to them. So one of the people who was in line, right, was a very important person in like the Women's Association for insert town or whatever. And while the Karen was like the president, this person was like the founder. She was the OG. She was really the one who owned it, who was basically the board of directors. The person who watched this Karen berate this woman for doing her very best, right, was actually the person who owns / runs or whatever, has like the most secretive, like, it's not really apparent, but it's like kind of secretive, but has the most authority and ownership of like the women's organization for whatever, right, the town that they're in. And sure enough, right, April is like, this is weeks later, April's mom is like, oh my God. And April runs and says, what's up? And April's mom is on Facebook, and she said, oh, do you remember that woman from weeks ago? And we're just going to call her the Karen. And April's like, yeah, Karen, I remember her. And she said, oh, she's being let go from her position as president of the Women's Association. And April's like, what? And April's mom's like, yeah, look, it's the Women's Association, says the board member, or like the real owner or whatever, I don't know what title it was, basically made a statement saying we will be changing presidential positions, or we'll be having the president step down due to, I don't know, disgraceful actions or something, or just not representing our organization in our community appropriately. And yeah, April's mom is like, so April, what does that mean? And April's like, store-bought cake is good. And April's mom's like, nope, no, it means you got to be a good person, April.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a good day, because today we have a story of a TikTok girl that fakes being super rich online, but then, you know, she ends up getting exposed, completely regrets it. You already know how it is, so yeah, sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's call the main person in today's story Allie. So Allie went to this summer camp, right? And at this summer camp, she met this girl named Lindsay. And Allie and Lindsay became really good friends. They had a lot in common, and they just bonded over that. And it was like a really good situation, right? But Allie also knew a lot about Lindsay. Allie knew that Lindsay wasn't some billionaire's daughter, right? They actually had one kind of sleepover, get-together type thing after camp. So Allie knew pretty well who Lindsay was. She was the daughter of two middle-class parents, all good. Things are totally normal. And the only reason I'm pointing this out is later in the story, it becomes an incredibly important detail. Because Allie and Lindsay, you know, they were very good friends during camp. And while they did see each other once afterwards, things started to change when they weren't at camp together, because they lived somewhat far away. They lived about a half an hour away from each other. And when Allie and Lindsay kind of went back to school, they kind of drifted apart, and they would text each other every once in a while. And one day, you know, Allie was on her TikTok page, and she was scrolling, and that's when she saw Lindsay, you know, post something on her TikTok page. And it was a very normal TikTok post. It was just one of those trend videos, something that like everyone would be doing, and they would post it and they would just assume that only their friends would see it, but it would end up going mega viral or something. And sure enough, Lindsay's post went mega viral. It got tons and tons and tons of attention, probably like close to 1 million views or something. And then all of a sudden, Lindsay started to think, oh my God, like I could be internet famous, like I gotta curate an image of myself. And this is where things get interesting, because Allie sees Lindsay post more, because you have one viral video, and of course you want to try and like capture some of that fleeting success to try and make something out of it, as you know, you can make a lot of money if you do that correctly. And Allie starts seeing Lindsay post these TikTok videos of her, kind of like living this lifestyle that is very clearly not the lifestyle she was living. One example was Allie saw a TikTok of Lindsay in this like super expensive car, like a $200,000, I don't know, some kind of like BMW type car or something, like the really high end one, and kind of just like in it and just being like, yes, to like morning vlog in my car or something like that. And Allie was like, what? This isn't the Lindsay I know. Because one of the things that like Allie and Lindsay, you know, they got along so well is because they could relate a lot. They related on the struggles of like, all right, I only got $50 to my name and I don't know when I'm going to get another 50. How are we going to go about that? So all of a sudden seeing, you know, Lindsay in this like super expensive $200,000 BMW type car really kind of just confused Allie. She didn't know what to make of it. And as time went on, she saw Lindsay post more and more of these videos. Just like more videos of just like a very just different lifestyle from what she imagined. So at first, Allie kind of just assumed that, Lindsay was just good at being modest in person, but terrible at being modest online, which, is a very weird, I don't know, that doesn't tend to happen. You're either modest in person and completely like even more modest online, or you're super flashy in person and incredibly flashy online. It's never, you're modest in person and you're flashy online. Like that almost never happens. But Allie was like, okay, well, that's interesting of like my former friend. And she didn't mean former friend like, oh no, she's, a TikTok star, I can't like her. She kind of meant former friend like, I don't talk to this girl anymore. And the thing is, these videos that Lindsay were posting, they did pretty well. They all got like 10,000 views or so. It didn't replicate the same success as the 1,000,000 view video because that video was kind of more relatable. And, these videos were a very stark difference. And Allie started to go through Lindsay's TikTok page and was noticing that like a lot of the comments, like she was going through it. And while there were some positive comments being like, well, girl, I wish that this was my life or something. I don't even know, man. I can't even replicate them correctly. But there were starting to be comments starting to point out inaccuracies, starting to point out flaws in the narrative of these TikTok videos. Specifically, people were saying, if that's really your car, how about you go drive it or show us the keys? And another thing being like, if that's really like something, if you really live in this house, if you really are vacationing to these places, you're kind of portraying it in a way that it could be easily faked. And Allie was starting to notice that some people in the comments, and it wasn't like every comment, it wasn't top comment, it wasn't that guy in TikTok who has those like very obviously fake diamond teeth and he has like a diamond detector, which really is just like a beeper thing. And he puts it on, he's like, 100% diamond, baby. I have $500 million in my mouth or something ridiculous like that. Not everyone thought it was fake, but there were starting to be people, more and more of them, that started to believe that, something's just off about these videos. Something just simply isn't right. And that's when, one day Allie goes on TikTok again and she sees a video. And it's a video that's very strange because on TikTok, there's a feature where you can duet another video, which basically means that you can go and like reply to another video with your video. And it features both the videos. Allie saw a video with like 50,000 likes, so a ton of traction, duetting one of Lindsay's videos. And normally, that's not a good thing. And what Allie saw completely shocked her. Real quick, if you made it this far, comment TikTok down below so I can see how many people made it this far. I'll try and heart a bunch of comments that do say that. And also, if you want to support the channel, binge watch the videos and let me know in the comment section how you're binge watching them. And finally, final little promo thing is if you haven't already done so, go follow me on TikTok. It's literally just Connor Pugs. I have about 7,000 followers there. And what I've been doing is I've been posting short stories to this channel, but on TikTok, I'll be posting them an hour before they're posted on here. So I would just go ahead and follow me on there as well as some other kind of original type content. Go ahead and drop me a follow in there. I would appreciate it. Anyways, back to the story. So Allie sees a video that is stitching. That's the word that they use, Lindsay's TikTok. And the video basically, it was replying to the infamous video from Lindsay of her in her $200,000 BMW car. And it shows the video originally just shows Lindsay in the 200,000 BMW car being like, hello girlies, this is my morning routine or something like that, right? And then it stitches to someone who finds exactly just, how one of those exposing videos that shows all the details or whatever, it stitches with a video that basically says I have proof that this is literally just, that this is literally just a rental. If you look in like the whatever bottom left corner of the car, you can see that there's the sticker on the windshield of the rental place. And if you don't believe me, like I looked it up and it's actually a rental place, and I found the car that she's in. It's a floor model. She was literally just went into a car shop to sit in the rental car, or not the rental car, but like the floor model car type thing that they put on display, and took a video. And if you look really closely in the background of the video, you can see that there's actually, it isn't outside and it's inside of a store. You need to kind of squint to see it though. And the video, they got a ton of engagement. 50,000 likes means around like 150 to 200,000 views, basically exposing that, Lindsay was faking the whole thing. And Allie was kind of taken aback, but also not super surprised, since the very kind of like humble, down-to-earth girl that she knew, Lindsay, she kind of knew that she came from a pretty normal household. And Allie kind of just assumed that once Lindsay got a little bit of TikTok fame, she wanted, the whole world to be impressed with her or whatever. So she decided that, material belongings were going to be the best way to get that accomplished. So a couple days later, Allie, checks back to see Lindsay's account because she's wondering if Lindsay decided to either ignore that video or respond to it, because that video did so well. Lindsay's comment section was being flooded with people being like, exposed, like, oh, you got wrecked. Oh, is this you? Whatever, stuff like that. And when Lindsay went back, when Allie went back, she was struggling to find Lindsay's account. And she went because she left a like to kind of bookmark the video exposing her. And she went on the because like a video that duets someone or stitches it will feature the original account in the caption. So she clicks on Lindsay's account, and sure enough, Lindsay's account is just completely gone. And Allie sends a text to Lindsay being like, hey, why did you delete your TikTok account? Not saying like, L, you got exposed, or anything like that. She was just kind of questioning it. And Lindsay just never responded to Allie. And Allie can only assume that, Lindsay was just so embarrassed by the whole ordeal, which I would be pretty embarrassed too. That is quite embarrassing, that she just deleted her account and just went about her life.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.
Today we got some stories of when the real world hit that spoiled rich kid. I know you'll enjoy them as they're super satisfying, so sit back, relax, leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the first story Gabriel, right? So anyways, there's a kid in Gabriel's class who is your very standard typical spoiled kid, right? His parents kind of gave him everything he ever wanted. He never had to work for anything. And honestly, low-key, that was like robbing him of something. I know you guys might think I'm crazy, but I think like when parents give kids everything they've ever wanted and they never have to work for anything, nothing is special anymore. And I know you guys might be thinking, well, he got what he wanted. And I'm like, I don't know. I think there's something valuable in working for what you get. But either way, that's irrelevant to the story. So anyways, the spoiled kid, his parents buy him a $50,000 car. I don't know exactly what car this is. I just know that they spent around $50,000 for it, because that exact number is important for later in the story. So, the spoiled kid is telling everyone about his new car. And when he was telling people, and Gabriel was there, you would have thought that the spoiled kid was excited. He was grateful. He was ready to hit the day, because you know what? His parents has bought him a $50,000 car. That's incredible. The fact that anyone drives a car over $20,000 beyond me, but or even over $5,000, bro. But sure, $50,000 probably had all this like cool extra stuff. You would have thought, right? Surely this kid is very grateful right now. Surely this kid is like, wow, thank you, mom and dad. You're the greatest. No, this kid was complaining because he said anything under $100,000 car is below him. Which honestly, everyone in the some people were trying to check this kid, and they were like, bro, what do you mean beneath you? None of us have cars. The fact that you even have a car, even if it's like a $200 beater car, which I mean, it gets you from point A to point B, so who cares? Even if you had just a car, right? That's still better than most of us. But no, right? The spoiled kid's like, well, no, actually, because I'm worth $100,000 of a car. And yeah, so he basically got in a big fight with everyone, not physically, but like a word fight, because people were saying you're being like spoiled, you're not appreciating what you had, right, or what you have. And he's saying, well, I deserve X or I deserve Y. Like, I just deserve $100,000 car. I don't know how else to say it, man. But yeah, so the spoiled kid is like very upset. And by the end of it, he says, you know what? You know what? I'm going to have $100,000 car by the end of the week, and you guys will see. And Gabriel, the subscriber, leans in and says, well, what do you mean by that? Because, I mean, he was just bought a $50,000 car. So why on earth would his parents now buy him a $100,000 car? It just doesn't really make that much sense at all. And Gabriel goes on to say, you know, if I happen to crash my car by accident, they're definitely going to buy me a new car. And I'm going to tell them that it's going to be a $100,000 car or no car at all. And Gabriel looks at the spoiled kid. And everyone else kind of looks at the spoiled kid thinking, does that actually work? Like, are you telling me you actually believe if you can tell your parents, either get me a $100,000 car or no car at all? Like, bro, I don't know. This isn't threatening them, bro. They could very easily choose the no car at all option. Like, that's the thing I don't understand. Normally, when you're trying to pressure someone into doing something, option A is the option you want, and option B is bad for them. How is option B here bad for the spoiled kid's parents? It literally just means that they'll be able to not spend more money on a car for this kid who genuinely doesn't even need a car at this point. So yeah, sure enough, Gabriel that day intentionally started beating up his car. He didn't like slam the gas into a tree because that could like damage him really bad. But he was just going around bumping his car. He's like bumping it into everything, slamming it up, scratching it up, and is playing basically bumper cars with everything around him. So yeah, he actually got the car so beat up and destroyed that he totaled the car, bro. Like, I don't know how he did it without, like, really damaging and, like, hurting himself or anything, but he was able to completely total the car. And, you know, he called AAA or whatever, and eventually called his parents, be like, Mom, Dad, I got in a car accident or whatever. They're like, oh, no. Because, obviously, you know, I would be, if my kid got into, or if I had a kid, right, or when I have a kid, right, if they got into a car accident, I'd be very concerned. And, you know, when he gets there, when the parents get there, or Gabriel's parents, not Gabriel, the spoiled kid's parents get there, he basically goes on to say, well, I'm going to need a new car. And they say, well, we just got you one. Like, this is kind of unfortunate that you totaled it. We can look into it, though. But then the spoiled kid basically exposes himself a little bit and is like, okay, well, Mom and Dad, you're either going to buy me a new car that's $100,000 or no car at all. And the spoiled kid's dad is like, excuse me? The spoiled kid's like, you know what? I'll be straightforward with you guys. I didn't get in a car crash. I wrecked my car on purpose because, you know, a $50,000 car, it's just beneath me at this point. So you guys are either going to get me a new $100,000 car or you're not going to get me a car at all. I guess in the spoiled kid's mind, this ultimatum of sorts was actually one that would like, these parents would be like, oh no, you're so right. Oh no. But actually what ended up happening was, yeah, you guessed it. His parents just never bought him another car again. And yeah, this kid was like a sophomore in high school. I mean, like, this kid asked for one later on, like when he was in college. Nope. His parents do not forget this. So yeah, it completely backfired. And then he actually, the spoiled kid actually had to start working for his stuff. And because his parents started to extrapolate this attitude of, you must get me the best thing ever, or else, to everything else in his life. So yeah, this kid, it was it kind of, I guess it was for the better because this kid now had to actually earn what he wanted, and that, you know, that makes life a little better sometimes. But yeah, the kid did not get a car, believe it or not. We're going to call the subscriber who submitted the second story John. So anyways, John had a roommate in college that always okay, so I'll just get right into it. So John had a spoiled kid roommate in college. And a couple weeks in, his roommate was bragging about how he chose the lightest major possible. Like, he chose the least intensive major possible. Not because that was the major that he had interest in, not because that was the major that he wanted to pursue a career with, but because he chose that major very specifically so that he would have to do the least amount of work possible just to pass college. Because he went on to explain to John that, his parents were loaded. They had a ton of money. And they basically just told him, you need to go to college, you need to get an education, and you need to, and then, like, you'll be fine. Like, as long as you get an education, we'll help you out. Which, like, this is definitely the kid who watches those, like, videos. It's like, you don't need college, man. Like, college is a scam. And he's like, yeah, man, college is a scam. You're right, dude. Which, I'm not going to lie, there are a lot of instances where college might not be the ideal return on investment and best life choice ever. However, this is not the kid who it would apply to, right? That'd be the kid who, like, takes out a lot of student loans and is really in, like, he's really in debt from, like, his student loans, and then his degree doesn't help him get a job that is strong enough to help pay off his loans quick enough, especially for the investment he made. It's also a time investment. You got a limited amount of that, etc. No, that does not apply to this kid. It doesn't matter if this kid had $1 billion loans. He was fine. But anyways, right? So this kid went on to explain that to John. And now John would watch as this kid never attended classes ever. Like, this kid would never be in class, ever. It would just not be a thing that happened. And, he was like, he would just, like, never do anything. This kid was always out partying, doing the fun stuff, only the fun stuff, never the hard stuff, which for this kid's major was like, oh, coloring time, guys. Make sure to color in between the lines for the super hard homework activity. But yeah, this kid would literally just be, like, not paying. He would just not be in school. He would not be doing his work. And guess what happened? I know this is going to be a shocker. He actually flunked out sophomore year, which, I mean, was incredibly difficult for his major. You literally just had to show up and just say hello. You just had to exist, and you would be fine. But he never existed in any of his classes, so I ended up flunking out. I guess John, the subscriber, heard of this from, like, someone else who was, like, kind of friendly or whatever, right? And apparently the spoiled kid was, like, convinced that it didn't even matter at this point, that, his parents would help him out no matter what, even if he didn't get a college education. But that was, in fact, not the case, because his parents actually cut him off after this. I think they realized that they kind of, that they created this monster, basically, and that the reason why he sucked so bad was low-key because of the level of just, like, the lack of struggle they ever had, like, that they ever gave him, right? They never gave him any. I mean, you are a byproduct of your environment, right? So it is kind of on them that they created an environment that was just so incredibly bad, right? It was just so incredibly bad that this is how we turned out. So his parents completely cut him off. And John heard that, over the next couple of years, that this kid actually kind of got his life together a little bit. I think he definitely was pouting and freaking out for the first probably 6 months, but eventually got his life together. He went to a trade school, and he actually has a pretty solid job right now. And he kind of put his life together, and he's definitely a much better person with a lot more character now. We're going to call the subscriber who submitted the third story Sarah. So anyways, Sarah had, like, 3 friends at college. And at this college, like, it was a pretty expensive one, but Sarah went here with a pretty significant financial aid package, and her 3 friends did not. That doesn't say anything bad about the friends. That's just literally how life is sometimes. That's just the situation. However, Sarah and these 3 friends became pretty close, and they were thinking about doing something together for spring break. And one of the friends was like, oh, we should go to X location. And Sarah was like, oh, that sounds great. All the friends came together. They were all super excited, right? Because, it was a really cool vacation spot, and things looked pretty good. And so basically, Sarah got a text message from one of the friends saying, here's a link to the tickets if you want to buy them soon. Let's all sit in the same row, so buy them tonight, basically. And Sarah didn't think anything that much of it until she clicked the link. She checked the tickets. The tickets were $2,000. $2,000. That's like 2 iPhones, which even iPhones are expensive / overpriced, low-key. For one, okay, it was there and back, but still. So Sarah was looking at this, and she was like, $2,000 for tickets? If you made it this far into the video, comment spoiled down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. Leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing. Subscribe if you are new, and let's just jump right back into it. So anyways, Sarah is just looking at these tickets, and she's like, there's just no way that I could possibly buy these. And she was like, she casually brought it up to her friends, being like, oh, wow. tickets are $2,000. Like, that's pretty crazy. And her friends kind of looked at her. Okay. These friends, they were not mean people. So they did not look at her with oh, you can't afford $2,000 for tickets? You must be broke AF. Okay, they didn't suck, right? But they kind of looked at her like, what? Like, I didn't even think about that. Kind of the, I don't even look at the price tag, Father dearest, we'll take care of it type look, right? And Sarah started to realize that her friends didn't see any issue with it. So there was one friend in that friend group of 3 who Sarah thought would be the most understanding. Not that the others wouldn't be understanding, but Sarah thought that that one would be the most understanding. And she was. So she basically sat her down. She's like, look, you know I want to go out with you guys. You know you guys are my close friends, and I want to go on spring break. I just can't, I can't take these tickets, right? They're just way too expensive for me. And the girl's like, wow, like, I'm sorry. I didn't even think of that. Like, I really should have. Like, it's really embarrassing for me to put that on you and not, like, and then Sarah's like, hey, look, it's fine. It's fine. It's not your fault that, you didn't think of it. Sarah genuinely had no gripes against these girls, and, she really did like them. They were good. They're good people, right? They just lived in a different world. And, Sarah's like, you guys, you don't need to go anywhere else. Like, you 3 can go. I promise, promise you, I don't care. I'll just go home. I've wanted some home time anyways. You don't need to worry about it. And the girl's looking at her, says, okay, well, let me think about it for a second. So Sarah goes back, and the next day comes around, and Sarah's hanging out with her 3 friends, and they're not even talking about spring break. And that's when Sarah's friend, the one that she talked to, announces that they have changed plans, that they're all going to go back to her house, which she lived like a 45-minute car ride away, because, and at her house or whatever, they were then going to go and get an Airbnb in a local area or whatever. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the friend that Sarah talked to is actually pretty cool, and she stepped up to the plate because she basically went ahead and told, I think she alluded to the other ones what the problem was, and they decided to change their entire trip from the crazy expensive flight over to a car ride to Sarah's friend's house, and then a car ride to an Airbnb. And while gas is pretty expensive right now, it is definitely not $2,000 expensive. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the final story Luke. So anyways, Luke had a pretty big friend group in college. There's a lot of people there. There's also mixed guys and girls. And they all went on a vacation together, and so they all pull up to the airport. And I don't know if you guys have ever been flying together, but I just hit my knee on something. Ow. Anyways, so they all show up, and there was a girl who was looking very lost and confused. And Luke just thought that she had never flown before, which is totally fine. Like, you guys don't need to fly around. You're not really missing much in the flying experience. Trust me. I don't really fly that often myself. Occasionally I'll do. But anyways, Luke was looking at her, and she was very lost, I guess you could say. So Luke kind of just assumed that this girl had never flown before. And that's when this girl goes on to say something that completely shocks Luke. She says, I've never flown public before. Which normally when you haven't flown in general, like you've never flown on an airplane, you don't say I've never flown public. Like, Luke's thinking to himself, yeah, it's all public. Like, what are you talking about? And that's when this girl specifies, like, no, I mean, I do fly. And Luke looks at her like, what? You just contradicted yourself. You just said that I don't fly public. And the girl looks at him and says, no, I fly all the time. I've only flown on private jets, though. I've never flown on a public airport. And Luke's like, what? Yeah, so basically this girl has never flown in a public airport before. She's only flown on private jets. And so Luke's like, okay, I guess I learned something new about you today. I did not know you were mega loaded. But anyways, I can help you out, though. Basically, Luke is like, yeah, I can help guide you through. So basically, they go to TSA. She's like, what's this? And he's like, well, they have to check you. And he's like, what? Or she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, so just you have to take off your... She's like, I don't want to take off my shoes. And he's like, I don't think you have a lot of choice in the matter. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I just don't think you have a lot of choice. But okay? And she's like, fine, I'll do it. So she goes through. So this girl is complaining the entire time, right? And she hasn't told anyone else that this is her first time flying public, so everyone else just thinks that she's like, used to this, but still annoyed with it, because even if you're used to something, it can still kind of be annoying, right? But no, the truth is, in fact, she's just never flown private before. So she eventually gets on, they load onto the airplane, and she looks in, and she's like, Luke. And Luke's like, yeah, what's up? He's like, is this actually all the space we have? And she's pointing towards the first class seats, which her parents bought her first class tickets. And Luke's like, wait until you see the seats that I'm sitting in. And he points back there, and she literally gasps. Because the horrors of flying, right? Which, yeah, I'm not going to lie. Flying, I've never flown in a first class seat. I've definitely, I always like economy, whatever. It does the job. It definitely does the job. But wow, that is crowded. I'm not going to lie, those seats are small. They are cramped. But yeah, so after they get off the flight, the girl is complaining the entire time about how, once they get off, she's like, oh my God, my legs, they're so stiff. And no one was really being like, oh, I'm so sorry you have to sit in the first class seats. Oh, I'm so sorry. That must be so hard for you. They were all kind of just ignoring her because, yeah, they were pretty stiff too. But guess what? They weren't saying anything about it. And also, guess what? They were actually in tight seats. She was not. The first class seats that she was sitting in, she could just recline as much as she wanted to, but no, right? No, of course not. She had to be the one who complained. They couldn't complain, though, obviously. And, yeah, after that, she was pretty cool. But Luke learned something new about his friend today, and that she had never flown in a public airplane before, which, what?
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it.
From a teacher exposing a spoiled brat in front of his crush to a rich kid getting a good life lesson from the teacher, these are some stories of teachers humiliating spoiled rich kids. And one of these spoiled rich kids actually threatened the teacher, and it got super intense. So there's a rich kid in the subscribers class, and just because you're rich doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that people don't like you, but this kid was obnoxious. This kid was annoying. And anyways, this story all started one day when this kid was in class and he was telling a little story about what happened that weekend before. So basically, the kid was in class and he was just all like, hey guys, it was my birthday recently and I received a new car. And everyone, remember, this is sophomore year of high school, so barely anyone had a car. And especially if they were going to have a car, it wouldn't be a car like the spoiled rich kid was going to have. We also know that the spoiled rich kid's car would look like this, and not like any other car that any of us would receive. But anyways, the story isn't just the fact that the spoiled rich kid received a super expensive fancy car for his birthday, even though that's really crazy. The story that the spoiled kid was telling the entire class was he said, hey man, I got this car, it was super expensive, and guess what, guys, you won't even believe it, but I was like, you know what, Dad, this car isn't expensive enough for me, so I got in the car, I hopped in my whip, I drove down the street, and I intentionally totaled the car. The entire class is just completely shocked at this point. They're completely just... The class, the teacher, and everybody is looking at the spoiled rich kid to see if he's just joking, to see if he's, just clowning around. But the spoiled rich kid had an extremely serious expression on his face. And that's when people realized this kid wasn't joking. This kid wasn't messing around. The spoiled rich kid actually crashed his super expensive Lambo, Tesla, whatever type car just because it wasn't expensive enough. He wanted the Bugatti, man. He wanted to be top G. So at this point, the teacher was having enough of this kid. Because if you guys didn't realize, the teacher was listening in on the entire story. The teacher heard all of it. So the teacher actually budges into the conversation, because this was a conversation between the spoiled kid and his classmates. But the teacher decides that it's time for them to jump into this. And the teacher goes in and basically says to the spoiled kid in front of everyone, humiliating him in front of the entire class, the teacher tells him that, he needs to be more respectful, of, what his parents give him. He needs to understand that it's his parents' like gift to him. It's not like anything he's worked for. And then he needs to understand that money doesn't grow on trees. You guys might be thinking that, the spoiled kid is having a massive temper tantrum right now. He's having a meltdown. He just got owned by the teacher. No, the spoiled kid decides to fight back. So the spoiled kid looks at the teacher and is like, "You're just jealous that you don't have my Lambo supercar." And the teacher looks back at him and says, "You know what? Maybe I'm a little jealous." The whole class kind of goes shocked for a second because the teacher just admitted maybe that they were a little bit jealous, but the teacher wasn't admitting defeat here. The teacher says, "Maybe I am a little bit jealous, but you know what I'm not? You know what I'm not jealous of? You. Because I know for a fact that you're not a happy individual. I know for a fact that you're not a content individual because you did not work for the things that you have. You did not work for the spoils of your labor, the fruits of your labor. You did not collect the spoils from anything that you did. You just exist, therefore you receive." And bro, the kid and the spoiled kid in front of the entire class, just, he almost has this like epiphany that what the teacher is saying is actually correct. It's like the spoiled kid realized that everything in his entire life had just been given to him because he was in a rich family, not because he deserved it. And at that point, the spoiled kid gets up and is like, I need to go to the bathroom, and runs out of the class. So let me know in the comment section down below if you think that the spoiled kid, that the teacher went too hard on the spoiled kid here, or if he basically got what he deserved. The spoiled kid in this story might have been pretty spoiled, but at least this spoiled brat wasn't as bad as this one. So this all happened one day in class, and there was a spoiled rich kid, and this kid didn't just come from a very standard rich kid family. Like, there's definitely a rich kid, who his parents maybe make, maybe top 5%, maybe top 10%. So they were definitely like rich kid parents, maybe a successful lawyer, banker, whatever. This kid was like the rich kid if he was in a group of rich kids, right? This kid had his parents made money out of their butts, bro. It legitimately grew on trees for them. I don't know what their parents did. I have no idea, but they were like superstars at whatever they did. And the thing is, the fact that his parents made that much money unfortunately went straight to this kid's head, and it gave him a pretty inflated ego. And this all started one day in class. It was the very last day before summer vacation, right? It was the last day of class in 8th grade. They were going to be graduating onto high school. They were about to go to summer for summer vacation. Vibes were really good in the school. Things were seeming really nice. However, the spoiled kid just had to be the one to mess it up. So the teacher decided, just for a fun last day activity, because the teacher really had nothing else planned, as it was the last day of school. It's not like she can be like, "Okay, now we're going to learn calculus in the next 30 minutes. I know you guys can do it." No, so she just decided that she was going to have a kind of a nothing, not a nothing activity, but a very light, easy, fun activity. So she decided that she was going to go around and ask everyone in the class what they did, what they were going to do over the summer, what their plans were, and if they didn't have that many plans, what they wanted to do. Very nice, easy activity. It made a lot of sense because they didn't need to really focus in on anything else hard right now, so sure, might as well go for it. So sure enough, the teacher says, "All right, class, so I'm going to ask you guys to go around one by one and say what you're doing over the summer." So Jimmy over here says that, he's going to be working at the ice cream shop, and Sally over there says she's going to be going to sleepaway camp, a sleepaway camp she's been going to for her entire life. But eventually you get to the spoiled kid. Yep, the spoiled kid. Play ominous music. You already know this is going downhill. So sure enough, right, the spoiled kid goes on a 10-minute tirade. And remember, people had been answering this question in the span of like 30 seconds to 2 minutes at a maximum. This kid goes on for 10 whole minutes, detailing every detail of his super expensive, exquisite, super intense vacation that no one has ever heard of. Basically, this kid was saying, well, first of all, I'm going to go to the south of France, and then I'm going to go to Monaco, and then I'm going to go to Germany, and then and just going to list off every European country. And he also, don't get it wrong, right? The kid makes sure to let you know every location he's going to, every hotel he's going to, every fun event he has planned. And then he also says how much each of these events costs. I'm not even kidding you. This kid legitimately is telling everyone, oh, this is going to cost me. Okay, bro, I know who you're talking about. You mean your parents. This is going to cost us, aka his parents, X number of dollars per night. And by the end of it, right, he's basically totaled like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a vacation, bro. That's crazy. And he's just like, by the end of it, 10 minutes, remember, 10 whole minutes go by. And that's when the spoiled kid is done talking about all the crazy things. I'm going to spend all this money, whatever, right? I'm going to go on the craziest vacation ever. And first of all, by the end of it, half the class is just shocked by how much money he's spending. The other class doesn't even know how much money he's spending because they were so bored 2 minutes into it that they literally fell asleep. So you guys might be thinking, okay, well, that's pretty bad, Connor. And that's definitely more spoiled than the last guy. But it can't be getting more spoiled. No, you're incorrect. The spoiled kid gets even more spoiled. I'm not even kidding. Because here's the thing. If the spoiled kid was just going on and on about how crazy of a vacation he was going to have, maybe I'd give him a pass. But I know for a fact I'm not giving him a pass for what he's about to say. So eventually he finishes after about 10 minutes about talking about this super crazy, this vacation is going to go on. And the teacher's like, okay, spoiled kid, thanks for sharing, I guess. And then, the teacher's like, all right, Gerald or whoever's next to him, it's time for you to go. So Gerald starts talking about what he's going to do on vacation. And it's nothing too extravagant. Not even just compared to what the spoiled kid is doing. He's mostly just going to stay home, spend time with family, maybe get a summer job, walk his dog. Really just a very nice, relaxing, normal person summer. And the spoiled kid turns over to someone next to him and whispers, Is this what poor people do over the summer? And this kid, the spoiled kid, intentionally whispered it extremely loud. You know those people, when they whisper, they talk in the hushed voice like this, but they say it really loud? That's basically what the spoiled kid did here. So very clearly, he wanted people to hear that he was pretending to whisper that, he thought that this is what poor people did. I don't know why, but he wanted that. He just wanted people to know he was a jerk, I guess. Bro, don't ask me. I'm not the spoiled kid here. But the thing is, the teacher heard this, and the teacher was already kind of, I don't know if the teacher was annoyed or just thought it was not the right place for the spoiled kid to talk about his vacation in the way that he did. So he already wasn't really liking the spoiled kid at this point. And then when he heard the spoiled kid say something as egregious as that, the teacher knew that he couldn't just stay silent. The teacher knew that he needed to own this kid, just, for the kid's own sake, for the spoiled kid's sake. The teacher goes on to say, like, spoiled kid, what did you just say about Gerald's vacation? The spoiled kid's like, I didn't say anything, man. And, one of the classmates low-key snitched him out and was like, no, spoiled kid did say something. And spoiled kid's like, dude, shut up. It was very clear the spoiled kid wanted people to hear him, but I don't think it was clear that the spoiled kid actually wanted a confrontation, which is what he was getting. So sure enough, the spoiled kid's like, I didn't say anything, dude. You're overreacting. And that's when the teacher goes on to say, spoiled kid, can you stand up to the front of the class, please? And the spoiled kid has this shocked look on his expression. And everyone else in the class was shocked as well, because what was the teacher going to ask him to do, standing up in front of the entire class? Well, the teacher was about to go crazy, bro. So the teacher was like, spoiled kid, why did you make that comment about Gerald's vacation? And the spoiled kid's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, why did you make those comments about Gerald's vacation? The teacher was not going to let the spoiled kid off the line. He's not going to let him off for this one. This time, the teacher is going in. And Gerald's a little embarrassed because he doesn't want everyone to know that the spoiled kid said, oh, you have a poor person vacation. He's not trying to get everyone to hear that. But at the end of the day, he's respecting what the teacher's doing. Because the teacher goes on to say, spoiled kid, do you believe that you're entitled to such a vacation? And the spoiled kid's like, what? And the teacher's like, spoiled kid, what if I was to call your parents right now in front of everyone and tell them what you said? At this point, everyone in the class realized that yo, this teacher doesn't mess around, bro. This teacher's going in hard. And the spoiled kid starts to tear up a little bit. He's like, teacher, I didn't mean to say that. I'm so sorry. But the teacher had legitimately no mercy. The teacher calls up his parents. His mom picks up, and it's on speakerphone. So she's like, hello, hello. And the teacher's like, yes, I'm just calling about your son. And she's like, oh, is my son okay? And the teacher's like, yes, but no. Your son said something to another student that is really just not acceptable. And the mom's like, oh my God, what did he say? And, at this point, the spoiled kid is crying in front of the entire class right now. It's super embarrassing for him. The entire class is watching him as he's getting completely wrecked by the teacher. But sure enough, the teacher goes on to say, like, oh, so he was explaining, the summer plans he had for this summer with everyone, as I instructed him to do. But when a fellow classmate of his explained his stories or his plans for the summer, your son said that what he was doing was what a poor person would do, because it was not what he was doing. And there was a bit of a silence on the phone, because you could tell that the mom of the spoiled kid was very much taken aback by what her son said, right? And the mom's like, I'm so sorry. Tell my son to apologize right now. I'm going to have a meeting with him when he gets back, and his vacation might be looking a little bit different. Thank you for letting me know. And at this point, the spoiled kid is just having a massive meltdown in front of the entire class, and everyone's just looking at him awkwardly like, okay, this is really unfortunate. And the teacher's like, all right, spoiled kid, you can sit back down. And I don't know if this humiliation was a little bit too crazy. Please let me know in the comment section if you think this one was too extreme or not. But at least this spoiled brat was not as bad as this final one. I know it's hard to believe, but at least he wasn't as bad as this one. So anyways, this spoiled kid, everyone knew as the super rich spoiled kid, right? He had been gone from class for an entire month. This kid was on vacation to like Mykonos or the Cayman Islands or super fancy resort, or just going on like a crazy expensive rich kid vacation when everyone else in class, it was like the middle of winter. They were just getting there in the cold, early in the morning, getting to class, doing their work, studying their, their algebra 2 or whatever they were taking. Everyone was working hard while the rich kid was out there partying, having a fun time, relaxing, enjoying a life that they never could. And the thing is, right, he's gone for a month, and he doesn't tell anyone at the school that he's gone for a month. And at a minimum, he doesn't tell the teacher of this class that he's gone for a month. So one day, one random day, it's not a random day, it is the day before a massive exam that they're taking in this class. So the teacher is doing a review day, or a kind of review session type day, right? And the teacher is going on to be like, all right, class, so this is like what you need to know, this is what you need to be prepared for. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes into class, so it's already late if you're to come now, the spoiled kid, who's been gone for an entire month, joins the class. The entire class is pretty shocked at this point. They look over, they look at the spoiled kid with this look of shocked expression of like, you still go here? What? But sure enough, the spoiled rich kid comes in, and he's like, oh, like, what's up, guys? Been a second, right? And the teacher's like, you still attend this class? What? And so sure enough, the spoiled kid just comes in, he sits down, and pretends like nothing is happening. And so the teacher decides, okay, whatever, well, I'm just going to keep teaching class as if nothing happened either. So the teacher starts talking about how they have a massive exam tomorrow. And that's when the spoiled kid raises his hand, which, what's the spoiled kid doing raising his hand, bro? Like, I don't get that. Like, he's been gone for so long. But anyways, the spoiled kid raises his hand. And sure enough, the teacher's like, yes. And the teacher says yes with a bit of like confusion, because what's the spoiled kid doing raising his hand right now? And the spoiled kid's like, teacher, like, I clearly don't have to take this exam, right? I mean, I should get a 2 to 3 week extension because I've been gone for so long. And the thing is, right, if this kid was gone for like medical leave or a family issue, or at least told the school/teacher about this, I would have some sympathy if the teacher didn't give him an extension. However, the spoiled kid didn't tell anyone, and the reason he was gone is because he was too busy partying and doing insanely rich kid things to take the test or not to take the test, to be in school. And he just shows up one day, the day before the exam, expecting that he's going to get no. That's not happening. And the teacher agreed with me. It's not happening. And the teacher tells him, no, like you're taking the exam like everyone else, like tomorrow. Like you didn't tell anyone about the fact that you were gone for so long. Why do you expect an extension? And the spoiled kid looks at the teacher and is like, very funny. Now where's my extension? As if he was entitled to something. As if he deserved to get an extension just because, oh, I deserve everything. Because if I want something, I will get it. Which is just pretty crazy in my opinion. But anyways, the teacher holds that, like says, no, I'm not joking. You're not getting anything. And that's when the spoiled kid, who's also super entitled and thinks that he's like some massive karate expert as well for some reason, even though he is not that athletic, if we're being real, stands up, is like, you don't want this smoke, bro. Bro, whenever some like, I don't know, some like sophomore in high school that's looking all dweeby and dorky says, you don't want this smoke, like it is the most ridiculous thing. And the teacher is looking at this kid like, and says to him, did you just threaten me? Did you just threaten the kid's like, oh, you don't want the smoke, bro? That's what I'm saying. You didn't want the smoke and you're going to get it if you don't give me an extension. And the whole class is looking at this kid like, this kid cannot be serious right now. And the kid's like, dude, you don't want the smoke. You don't want the smoke. And the teacher's like, I'm not giving you an extension. You're taking the final exam like everyone else is tomorrow. And the kid's like, it's just not happening. Like, you're crazy for that. And the teacher's like, I'm the crazy one here? So the spoiled kid, gets right up in the teacher's face. And the thing is, this teacher is not some small little dainty teacher that needs protecting. The funny thing is, if anyone, the spoiled kid is the small dainty one who needs protecting. This teacher is like ex-military, ex-Marines, math teacher who gets up at 6 in the morning and eats nails for breakfast. This teacher is not one that is meant to be messed with. But the spoiled kid apparently doesn't get the memo on this. This is because the spoiled kid is like, I'm going to give you one chance to change your mind. And the teacher is just staring him down as the entire class watches on. And the spoiled kid's like, you have one shot to change your mind or you're going to be in a world of pain. And the teacher says, bring it on, buddy. And the tension in this room, you could just cut with a knife at this point. It is this extreme. So sure enough, the spoiled kid, who believes that he is some kind of like godly entity that can destroy, who deserves everything and can destroy anyone, goes to punch the teacher in the face. He thinks that the best case scenario here, the best choice for him, is to punch the teacher in his actual face. But this teacher is an absolute savage. This is an ex-military guy. You don't want to mess with him. He legitimately catches this kid's wrist mid-punch. The kid is swinging on him, and instead of like dodging or blocking it, he grabs onto his wrist. And at this point, the entire class watches as the spoiled kid, has his wrist, like his fist, fully extended an inch away from the teacher's face. But his fist is frozen in midair because the teacher has latched on to this kid's wrist. And at this point, the kids in the class legitimately say that the teacher, for a split second, had this smirk on his face. He had this little smile on his face. Because within a split second later, the teacher gets this kid on the ground. He does some crazy like martial arts maneuver, flips the kid around, and pins him on the ground. And says, "One of you guys get the security." So a kid in the class, obviously gets up, leaves, gets the security officer comes down, gets the spoiled kid. The teacher explains quickly that the kid tried to swing on him, and the kid was escorted to the
Click on the
front of
video on
class.
screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
Today we got some stories of some spoiled brats who think that they truly do rule the world just because daddy has a little bit of money. I know for a fact you will enjoy this, so sit back, relax, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into the stories. So we're going to call a subscriber who submitted the first story Ahmed. Anyways, right, so there's a kid in Ahmed's class who, he was the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid truly did believe that just because, he had parents who were very rich, that he could literally do anything and that everyone wanted him. And there was a girl in Ahmed's class, and also in the spoiled kids class, who was very pretty. She was very nice. She was everything that anyone could have wanted, or any guy could have wanted, or any girl could have wanted, right? And, Ahmed had a little bit of a crush on her. He's not going to lie, guys. He's not going to lie. But at the same time, right, he knew that, she probably wasn't into him. But he also knew for a fact that she was not into the spoiled kid. However, one day, the spoiled kid sat down next to Ahmed and his friends. He said, boys, I will bet you $10 that the girl, I don't know, let's call her Claire, right? Claire is gonna fall in love with me tomorrow. And Ahmed is like, bro, I guarantee, bro, that is not the case. I guarantee that's not gonna happen. Sure, I'll take you up on this bet. And sure enough, his friends also did. It was actually a bet structured. The spoiled kid was like, I will pay you each $10. And only one of you needs to pay me $10 if I win. So it was a pretty good bet. So anyways, Ahmed is a little bit like, okay, what's this kid's plan? What's his angle? I know for a fact she's not into him now. And he says he can get her by tomorrow. So yeah, sure enough, tomorrow rolls around. And the spoiled kid walks in. And he has one of those Supreme shirts. You know the shirts that go for like $500 because it says Supreme on it? And it's probably just like a standard Hanes t-shirt or whatever with some like paint on it, bro. Yeah, the spoiled kid walked in, very proudly showing off the fact that he had his Supreme t-shirt on. And sure enough, he walks back to the back of the class and he looks at Ahmed. He's like, checkmate, baby. And Ahmed is like, bro, what? Like, I don't get what you're saying. What do you mean checkmate, bro? Like, what do you mean checkmate? And the kid's like, well, bro, do you not see my Supreme t-shirt on? There's no way she can resist. Guys, look, if you're into the hype beast stuff, that's totally fine. You can like whatever you like. But let me just say, from my own life experience and observations, I'm pretty sure that a girl will not go down to her knees and beg to be with you just because you have that new Supreme Gucci brick in your back pocket, right? You're not gonna whip out the Louis Vuitton brick and be like, yo, marry me. And she'd be like, oh my God, yes. Yeah, that is probably not gonna happen. Just a heads up. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot. Who knows? I mean, I might be an idiot and be right here. I don't know. Both are possible. But anyways, the spoiled kid goes up to the girl that he's a crush on. He's like, so, Claire, hello there. Claire looks up and is like, hi there, spoiled kid. And spoiled kid's like, so I was wondering, did you want to go on a date with me this Friday? And Claire was completely thrown off guard. So she's like, oh, I don't know if I want to be seeing anyone right now. No offense. It's not personal. I just don't think I want to see anyone. And spoiled kid's like, oh, you must not have seen. And he turns around and he like flexes out his chest to show very, very prominently that he had, the Supreme t-shirt on. And she's looking at him. She's like, what am I looking at? He's like, the t-shirt. Look at the t-shirt. She's like, oh, Supreme. Okay, that's very nice. Are you saying that you're Supreme? And he's like, no, it is a very expensive streetwear brand, and you must like me because of it. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be dating anyone. So spoiled kid very angrily walks to the back of the classroom. And he did not have the money to give them because he expected so confidently that he was going to win, that she was going to fall in love with him because of the t-shirt he was wearing, that the spoiled kid literally didn't even bring the money. He just expected that, like, no, he was going to be fine, guys. Like, why are you even questioning, bro? Like, obviously this kid's going to be fine. But no, that was not the case. So yeah, the next day comes around, he brings in the money, and he gives it to Ahmed and his friends. Anyways, we're going to call the subscriber submitted the next story Ibrahim. So there's a kid in Ibrahim's class who was the spoiled kid, right? He was a very standard, stereotypical spoiled kid. And sure enough, right, at Ibrahim's school, you could either bring in your own lunch or you could have the school lunch. The school lunch was atrocious. It was awful. There was no redeeming qualities about the school lunch. Nothing about it was good. It was awful. And Ibrahim just kind of dealt with it every single day. As everyone who went to the school dealt with it. He dealt with it like they did, It's just how it goes. It's literally just how it goes, man. So sure enough, right, this all happened one day, and the spoiled brat is sitting there, and you hear him start to freak out, so people turn around. And do you guys know why the spoiled brat was freaking out? He was freaking out because he forgot to bring in the packed lunch that his mother had made him. Because the spoiled brat would always bring in his own lunch, which I can't blame him. Like, I probably would too at this school. But his mom would always bring him in, like, okay, do you want beef Wellington or filet mignon this morning, son? He'd be like, those are my options? Ugh, disgusting. No, but, he would always bring in his own lunch, and it would always be super awesome or whatever. And he was freaking out because he started to realize that he needed to eat the school lunch. So anyways, they all walk into the cafeteria, and Ibrahim is behind the spoiled kid. And he hears the spoiled kid, like, just mumbling about, oh my God, man, I'm going to have to eat this stuff. What if I die? What if I get chlamydia, bro? What if I explode from this, bro? I don't think my delicate stomach could take something like this. I'm not going to make it. I should call my mom. I should call my dad. Just kind of freaking out the entire time. And Ibrahim's kind of thinking to himself, bro's really never had a normal school lunch before. That's absolutely crazy. So sure enough, the spoiled kid grabs a tray, gets in line, and looks at the lunch lady, who's scooping out very mysterious meat onto people's plates. And the spoiled kid, the lunch lady, puts on his plate, takes a whiff of it, gags. And then, when the spoiled kid goes to sit down, Ibrahim looks over and notices that the spoiled kid breaks down into tears, is straight up crying. There are tears spilling down his face because he needs to eat the school lunch. And he's like, no, I just wanted my filet mignon, and this is what I get. Am I a bad person? Have I done something to deserve this? And, like, everyone's looking around, and I think he was, like, looking for sympathy, but you're not gonna get a lot of sympathy when literally everyone else at the school has to eat the lunch too. It's not like, wow, you're going through something really hard and unique. It's like, no, you're going through something that literally everyone else at the school is going through, bro. I'm sorry, they're not going to feel bad for you. I don't know how else to say it. So yeah, after that point on, Ibrahim, or the spoiled kid, would never, ever eat the school lunch again, and he would always take out his filet mignon, his beef Wellington, I don't know, he would take out, like, the craziest food ever, right? And he would always tell everyone about the stories of that one time he ate at the school cafeteria. And he would tell the people at lunch at the school cafeteria who are eating the cafeteria food. They're not going to be entertained by a story of you. Oh my God, guys, you're not going to believe it. I ate the food that you're eating right now. I almost died. Like, they're going to be like, bro, shut up. Anyways, we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the next spoiled kid story Nasir. So Nasir's school was going on a bus trip to New York City. It was kind of like their big school trip or whatever. So they all get on, and in Nasir's grade, there is one kid who is the spoiled rich kid, right? This just a very standard description. I don't have to go into details. You already know what he's like. So anyways, they get off the bus, single file line, and they're walking into the streets of New York City. And the spoiled rich kid comes up to Nasir, and it's like, oh my God. And he points to someone, and it's just like a normal person. And he's like, oh my God, Nasir, help. There are poor people around here. And Nasir's like, bro, what? And the spoiled kid's like, Nasir, I'm really scared. I'm used to you guys, I'm used to the poor people at my school. Like you, Nasir. And Nasir's like, bro. He's like, but I'm in New York City right now. I'm surrounded by so many poor people, I can't take it, Nasir. I have a daily tolerance of you guys. And Nasir's like, bro, chill out. They're not going to eat you, bro. Like, what are you saying? And he's like, no, I saw them on Twitter. They said that they were going to eat me. As a, like, oh, they're going to eat the rich or something. And Nasir's like, bro. Nasir's like, of course I have to babysit this kid. And I'm not even getting paid, dude. But anyways, Nasir's like, it's fine. Just stick close to me. You'll be fine. Trust me. It'll be all good. And the kid's like, oh, okay. So yeah, they're walking around New York. They're getting pointed out to whatever. And eventually they hit one of the pretzel stands. Okay, look, the pretzel stands in New York City are not as good as people make them out to be. However, the food trucks that are the same around every single corner are a staple, so they decided to go there, and everyone got a pretzel. And, the spoiled kid was taking a bite, and he's like, this poor person's sustenance actually isn't that bad. And Nasir looks at him and says, can you not call it a poor person's sustenance? These are pretty good. He's like, that's what I'm saying. For being a bunch of poor people eating this, these are pretty good. And Nasir's like, dude, you need to stop with that. He's like, what? I'm shocked. I'm recovering from stress right now, Nasir. I can say whatever I want. I'm a victim. And Nasir just looks at this kid. It's like, bro really thinks that he's a victim for being in the presence of people with a lower income than his father. Like, just let that sink in for a second. Let that sink in for a second. So yeah, eventually they get back on the bus, and the spoiled kid comes up to Nasir and is like, thank you, Nasir, for protecting me against the plebeians, the peasants. And Nasir's like, what? He's like, you are a noble peasant yourself. Thank you for protecting me against others of your kind. And Nasir just looks at him and is like, you're welcome, bro. And he says, you're welcome, bro, with the straightest face you have ever seen. The least emotion out of a man ever. Because he's just like, this kid, bro. This freaking kid, bro. Yeah, we're going to call a subscriber submitted the next story and final story, Chiji. So anyways, there was a kid in Chiji's class, and this was like senior year of high school. It was a senior spring, too. They were all in college. So, like, grades still matter, because if you fail a bunch of classes, you can still be dropped from your college. But it's not like you need to sweat out your grades as hard as possible. However, this spoiled kid basically got bought into his college, and he's at a point where he doesn't even think the grades matter. He thinks he can completely coast and fail out and, like, or not fail out, but just, like, it doesn't really matter, right? But he also believes that teachers will just be cool, or whatever he was thinking, like, quote-unquote, be cool, and give him at least a C even if he doesn't do anything. So anyways, one day, the spoiled kid, Chiji, and all of them show up to a test. They take it. Spoiled kid fails the test because he didn't write anything. He just wrote his name down and then didn't fill out a single answer. I think the spoiled kid was just so convinced that the teachers were just going to give him a C just for showing up. They didn't even bother trying. Like, not even, like, randomly guessing, which wouldn't have done well either. But didn't even try enough to randomly guess. So when the teacher went around handing back the grades or the papers or whatever, the spoiled kid sees he, like, legitimately failed it because he didn't answer anything. And he's like, hey, what's the meaning of this? And the teacher turns around and says, what's the meaning of this? You didn't fill out a single question. And Chiji just kind of like grabs his metaphorical popcorn and watches the show that's about to go down. Real quick comment, popcorn down below. There's going to be so many people commenting spoiled, thinking that they got the secret word of the day. Well, guess what? It's freaking popcorn today. Anyways, Chiji's just watching this go down. So the spoiled kid gets up and is like, bro, I just want to see you in this class. I'm not going to do anything, and you're going to give me a C. And the teacher's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm sorry. And the spoiled kid gets up and gets all up in the teacher's face. He's like, well, I'm going to make sure you give me a C, dude. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting a C no matter what. And the teacher's just like, no, I'm, what? Like, what do you mean? No. And the spoiled kid's like, I'm going to count to 3, and you're going to give me a C on this paper, or you're going to be in a world of pain. Like, this kid was a massive skadoosh bag, right? Just, I mean, like, it's just how it is. And the teacher's like, no, you can count to 1 billion for all I care about, and I'm not going to give you that C. You're getting an F because you didn't write a single thing down. Look, I would have been generous if you tried, even if you tried poorly. And the kid's like, 1, 2, just stare down at the teacher right there. And Chiji's like, in Chiji's mind, he's like, the spoiled kid is totally bluffing right now. There's not a shot that he's actually going to do anything, right? And the kid's like, all right, I warned you, bro. Boom! This kid legitimately thought that he was, like, above the law. The spoiled kid legitimately thought that rules didn't apply to him because the spoiled kid legitimately swings a right hook and socks the teacher in the face. When this happened, like, 3 kids... Okay, the spoiled kid... A little bit of context. The spoiled kid was not liked. Everyone thought he was a major, like, loser, annoying, like, brat, whatever. So when the kids in the class saw this, they saw this as a perfect opportunity to quote... and quote, save the day. So like 3 guys immediately jump on top of the spoiled kid when he swings on the teacher. Their explanation is going to be, oh, we just wanted to make sure that he didn't fight the teacher anymore. We were just trying to make sure that we were keeping everyone safe, when in reality, that might have been true. But the main reason that they probably did any of that is literally just so they could get a swing on the spoiled kid, because he was such an annoying brat that they were just like, yes, an opportunity, let's go. Yeah, but sure enough, the spoiled kid swings on the teacher, boom, makes contact with his face, but the spoiled kid's pretty much a little weakling brat dude, so his punch barely did anything. And then he just gets jumped by 3 guys. They just all jump on top of him, just bring him down to the floor, no mercy. And they were like, we got you, teacher, you're safe. And the teacher's not going to report them for fighting because, like, I don't know, why would he do that? So sure enough, the school security guard comes down, and he's like, all right, you can let go of the kid. Because, like, all 3 of them had this guy, like, a 3-way headlock or whatever, just completely strapping him down. And the kid's brought to the front office. And guess what? He fails out of the class. You know what also happens? The school that his dad brought him into sees that he's failing classes and fighting people, so they decide to rescind his application. So this kid, yeah, eventually his dad brought him into a different school, but not the school that he wanted to go to. And he also got in a lot of trouble, so the spoiled kid was no longer able to have unlimited credit cards and infinite time on the mega yacht in the Pacific, right? He now had to actually work a job. And the only reason that Chidi knows this is over the summer, Chidi and his friends went to their local ice cream shop, and who did they see behind the counter? Yeah, the spoiled kid.
Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it.
From a kid who thinks he can be a jerk because his dad runs the place and gets destroyed, to a rich kid who thinks he is great at everything because he's never been told no in his life, and life comes to him fast. These are the most satisfying stories of rich kids who think that they run the world getting destroyed in the real world. So the subscriber who submitted the story one summer had an internship at an investment bank or one of those type of banking internships. Basically, this kid was in college and he wanted to go into kind of banking or finance, so he got one of those internships at a bank, and these were pretty competitive. So he was pretty well prepared, he was pretty professional, and he was definitely up to par with the quality that this bank wanted. However, there was a couple other kids that were interns as well. I think the intern class was like 4 to 5, but like one of the interns, right, was distinguishably a lot worse than the others and very clearly did not care. The reason was because this kid did not get in this internship out of merit, out of skill, out of, grit and the ability to, persevere through tough times. No, this kid got the internship because his dad was literally CEO of the bank. This wasn't like one of the big banks like JP Morgan Chase, Citibank. This was a much smaller one, but it's still really big enough. And obviously, if your dad is CEO, you can probably swing an intern position at it. Like, you could probably do that. So anyways, right, on the first day of like meeting all of them, right, it was like the first like meeting was over Zoom, and then they were going to do it in person, but there was like a little like pre-meeting type thing where they told you about like information, what to expect, a little get-together, the other interns and the subscriber and all the interns got together on a Zoom meeting. Well, 4 of them did, because the 5th one was 10 minutes late. Can you guys guess who the 5th one was? Let's see, A, B, C. A, it was the subscriber. B, it was another kid who actually worked hard to get there. Or C, the CEO's son who didn't have to do a thing and got the internship because of nepotism. If you answered A or B, well, I don't know, you're just wrong, because it was C. Sure enough, it was the CEO's son who was like 10 minutes late or whatever. So while the kids were like sitting in the Zoom meeting, like just listening to, okay, so you're going to have to get there by 9 every morning. You're expected to do X, Y, or Z. If you have any questions, here's a good contact for me or your direct supervisor. Like, this isn't like supposed to be like competitive, like you're supposed to like work with each other. Like, you could all get job offers, because the thing about the internship is like you really want a job offer afterwards. That's like the best option, or in a couple of years or whatever. And so they were trying to say, like, it's not competitive between you guys. You could all get job offers, really work together, because that's what we do at the bank anyways. And then like 10 minutes in, this kid just shows up randomly. And this kid just like comes in, he's all disheveled. All the other guys dress up for their Zoom meeting, because like they were kind of told in the email, hey, be a little formal. Like, I know it's over Zoom or whatever, but kind of like show up, just kind of dress up a little bit for Zoom. But this kid came in with a big sweatshirt on, backwards hat, which is totally fine to walk around in, and like if you're just totally fine casual outfit. But bro, if you're really trying to like, I don't know, put it together for like an official meeting or something like that, and it says don't dress casually, then don't dress casually. But sure enough, since this was the kid of the CEO, he literally didn't care. And he came in 10 minutes late, dressed up all sloppily or whatever. So anyways, 20 minutes go by, and it's time for all the kids to introduce themselves and meet each other. So sure enough, right, they go around, and they all say their first and last names. And the subscriber notices, because like the subscriber did a lot of research about the bank, just because during the interview he was prepared if they're going to ask a history question about the bank, like when was it founded, who's the current CEO, what is like all these kind of information, right? They ended up not asking those specific questions, but for that reason, the subscriber knew all this information. So when he heard the last name of this kid, it matched up with the last name of the CEO of the bank. So, very quickly with a nice little Google search, the CEO of the bank was like, it wasn't a huge bank, but it was a big enough bank that this guy had like a public profile. And through some Google searching, right, he found that the name of the kid who was in the internship program happened to match up exactly with the name of the kid of the CEO of the bank. And after a bit more research, he found a photo and the photos matched up. So after the Zoom meeting and doing a bit of research, the subscriber realized that one of the interns is actually the kid of the CEO of the bank that they were working at. So anyways, on the first day, sure enough, this kid, the subscriber and all the other interns that actually worked to get there, they struggled. They understand what it takes, or they understand how valuable this is because they put in the work to get it. That's one thing you'll see. When people are just handed everything, they won't understand the value of it. In fact, a perspective is, in a sense, they're robbed of the true importance. Like they are robbed of the joy of reaping the rewards, because you're not reaping the rewards of anything, you're just giving it. But anyways, it was very, very, very apparent in the way that all these kids showed up, because the ones that worked for it showed up 5 minutes early, if not 10 minutes early, because you never know how long it takes with traffic, with navigating the New York City bus system or train system, whatever, right? So sure enough, they showed up like at minimum 5, 10, 15 minutes early. But the spoiled kid, we're just going to call him the spoiled kid from this point on, he literally came in 25 minutes late. And he had some lame excuse like, sorry, man, bus got I don't know, traffic or something like that. Which, fair enough. Sure, I guess. But at the end of the day, you got to be prepared for that. It's your first day. If that happens 2 weeks into the job, then I think that's more acceptable. But on your first day of work, especially for something really important like this, you got to show up, at least give yourself a good enough margin, especially if you're doing work in New York City. Like I know some of you guys are out of the country, or the country I live in, the United States, and you've never been to New York City, and some of you guys in the country have never been in New York City. That place is crazy. You got to give yourself a lot of time, because traffic and stuff will happen, and especially when you want it to least happen. So sure enough, they're in there the first day, and they're doing work. And when you're an intern, especially for a banking intern, you're not doing anything too crazy. For the most, you will be the most extensive thing you'll do is probably research or something like that. But for the most part, you're kind of just a coffee monkey and a PowerPoint slide monkey and an Excel monkey. You're not doing that much. So sure enough, right, they're just rearranging stuff on Excel. They're just kind of editing PowerPoint slides. It's a lot of work, but it's nothing's that hard or that interesting or stimulating. They kind of just give the interns and the very low level employees kind of the grunt work that no one really wants to do. So they're all sitting around doing it, and they're all given one big glob of an assignment. So it's they're given one stack where it's okay, you got to do all of this, you got to do this, all this kind of stuff, right? So sure enough, there's all these things that they got to do. And the thing is, though, it wasn't divided up evenly between them. It was just given to one of them, and they said, okay, I need you to delegate all the, I need you guys to delegate the work between, amongst yourself. We're not going to delegate the work for you. That's up to you guys. So sure enough, right, they just kind of all four of them, not the fifth one, all four of them, they go in and, they just, they go in, they grab some of the work, or they delegate some of the work if it's not paperwork, because a lot of it was Excel, PowerPoint, stuff like that, research. So the one kid who didn't was the spoiled kid. Because why would he have to work? His dad runs the place. He just shows up because his dad isn't going to let him play Fortnite all summer like he did last summer, right? He actually has to get a job or something. Like, screw you, Dad. Give me all these opportunities. I just want to play Fortnite and do nothing all day. Meh. But anyways, right, sure enough, like all the other 4 interns, including the subscriber, kind of gave this kid a side eye. Like, are you really just going to sit there and not do anything? So, yeah, sure enough, they end up doing all the work, and the kid is on his phone watching, like, TikTok videos or something. And by, like, 8 at night or something, because they wanted to make sure they got it all done and really show initiative on the first day. First of all, the kid left, like, at 3, which they're supposed to leave at 5. And the others stayed till 8. Low-key, the reason was because it was work for 5 people to finish at 5. But if you only have 4 people working on it, you're going to have to, like, stay a couple extra hours because the last person didn't pull through. You really do hate to see it. And this was a pattern that literally just continued on and on and on again. However, one of these days, it's actually like about a month into the internship, and the interns are doing really well. I mean, the 4 of them are. The 5th one, aka the spoiled kid, literally sits there and does nothing all day. So, is he doing well? I don't know. But really good reputation the interns are accruing right now. Everyone sees them as really capable and just really impressed by what they're able to do. So now they're given a more official assignment, and also for the first time ever, they're each given individual things they're supposed to do. Because the reason for this is they're each assigned to individual teams. So each of them is like given as part of a team or whatever, and they're all given a very important research role. Basically, they've been doing research the whole time, or the 4 of them have been doing research. The spoiled kid had not. And they had done a really good job, so they were all like 4 to 5 different teams were, going to be presenting to investors, and they were pretty important meetings. So these interns were given a super important job, and they were informed of how important the job was, to do research to give to the analysts and associates to put together for slides that would be given to the VPs or the MDs or whatever that would then present it. So what ended up happening was pretty funny. Because basically what happened here was you have to realize the spoiled kid had not done any research at all for the last 2 weeks. So he has no idea what this whole research thing is, right? So all the other kids do a really good job. The subscriber and the other 3, they do a really good job. They supply really good information to the VPs and the analysts and associates or whatever. They put together good presentations. And, it's a good enough presentation that if the investor wanted to invest based on the information, they would have. And if it wasn't right for them, then they wouldn't invest. But it wasn't because, the information was bad or was presented in a poor way. However, with the spoiled kid, first of all, he doesn't know how to do any of it because he's never done any of it. Second of all, he's too arrogant to ask for help. He's too kind of like full of himself to believe that he ever has to ask anyone else for help, especially, the poor kids that he was like working with. Like, he'd never have to ask them. He's above them. They're below him. And a combination of arrogance and procrastination led him to a point where, like, at 2 hours before the deadline, he's like, okay, I just got to figure this out. And the thing is, right, instead of actually doing research on, whatever specific thing they're supposed to do research on, he just plugged in random numbers. The thing is, though, the random numbers were, like, close enough to being the right numbers. Like, if you had no context and you just believed these numbers at face value, it's like if I said, like, a hamburger had 1 trillion calories in it, you wouldn't believe me because that's not reasonable. But if I said a hamburger had 300 calories and it actually had 800, you would probably believe me even if 300 felt a little bit low because it's in the range of possibility. Same thing if a piece of steak had 500 calories but I said it had 1,200, you would probably believe me. But if I said it had 1 billion, you wouldn't believe me. So the spoiled kid put in random numbers that were close enough to being realistic that the analysts and VPs didn't check them over, because to check them over would literally to be doing the grunt work again. And the whole point of the interns was to do the grunt work and to find the information. So the analysts and VPs created this whole presentation or an entire like deck or whatever these like bank people do. I'm not a banker, right? I'm into stocks for my own personal, financial security. If you ever want me to talk about that on my like second channel, let me know. But yeah, so they put together a whole presentation. However, mid-demonstration to these like very sophisticated, important investors, there was obvious holes in the presentation and something was fishy, and the investors were questioning the numbers that they were showing. And the analysts and VPs were starting to realize on the spot that something was not right about their models. Something was not right about the information that they were given. And apparently the presentation was a massive disaster. Like the whole thing completely exploded in their faces. So all the analysts the next day are kind of sitting in their office. They have a little, we're not analysts, sorry. The interns are all kind of sitting in their little intern office, right? So when they're all sitting in there, one of the managers walks in and says, "I need to speak to the spoiled kid right now." And the spoiled kid is on his phone playing like, I don't know, Fortnite or something. And like the other three or other four of them are doing work, and the spoiled kid looks up and the other kids look over too, because they're like, "What?" And like a whole team of like executives walk in and like, "We just lost like our fourth biggest client because the information you gave us was faulty. Like, where did you get that information?" He's like, and they're looking at him. They're like, "We looked over the data and on closer inspection, it looks like you just randomly put numbers in there." And all the other kids are kind of looking at each other like, okay, I totally believe the spoiled kid would do something stupid enough like that. Like, it's totally not out of the realm of possibility that the spoiled kid would just spam in random numbers and not actually do the work. And yeah, sure enough, this is probably the greatest thing. The spoiled kid's dad is called down, and he walks down into the office, and he just has this look of like disappointment, right, on his face. And what ends up happening is the spoiled kid's own dad tells him that he's let go, that he's fired. The spoiled kid's dad fires his own son because he messed up as an intern so badly that they lost their like fourth biggest client. I'm not even kidding you. And if you thought that this spoiled kid was bad, then you are not ready for the next spoiled kid story. You're simply not physically prepared for the amount of spoiled in this next story. Let's hop into it. So the subscriber in this story is working at a sports broadcasting company as an intern over the summer. So I don't really know. It wasn't like ESPN or anything too big like that, but it was a pretty big, at least locally, sports broadcasting company. So they covered all things in sports or whatever, sports media, stuff like that. I'm not super well versed in that field. So if I make some mistakes, like with technical things, and you guys are super big sports fans, keep going. Don't take it too personally in the comments. I'll do my best. But anyways, right? So sure enough, right? There was two interns. There's a subscriber, and then there's the spoiled kid, right? So basically, the spoiled kid, it wasn't as if his dad was the CEO of the company like last time. However, his dad was like a really big shot, like a hot shot, like big boy lawyer type dude. And he like knew the guy who like ran the sports company and basically said like, "Hey, like my son really wants to be an intern here. I know he's not qualified, but remember when we represented your company last time and we did a really good job? I would really appreciate it if you did a favor for me too." Kind of like a conversation like that happened behind closed doors. And sure enough, the very not so qualified spoiled kid got a job with a subscriber who was fairly qualified. And you might be thinking, oh, the subscriber just like has a big head saying that he's qualified. Well, at the end of the day, the subscriber didn't have a dad who like basically bribed his way in. So he was at least qualified enough that he needed to be bribed in, right? So sure enough, the spoiled kid's arrogance was put on display almost right away because as interns, they were given a lot of work. So in some cases, when you're an intern, you're given nothing of importance, like literally nothing of importance. And I mean, that's fair enough. When you're an intern, you're coming in with no experience and you just want to gain some understanding of what you're doing here. But other places, interns will be given, really important jobs. They're normally not jobs that require a lot of expertise because, I mean, how can you get the expertise without having expertise? Or how can you do something that needs a lot of knowledge without accumulating that knowledge, But sometimes like really kind of like jobs that anyone can do can turn out to be super, super important for like down the funnel, right? Like getting data, like getting information can be like, almost anyone could do it if they're taught briefly, but that is a super important role, you know what I mean? So sure enough, right, one of their very first assignments, because they were both given two different assignments, but they were in the same room, so they were like talking about it or whatever. Basically, one of their first assignments was to give information, like real quick information for an on-air broadcasting program that was going to go on literally an hour later. So they're like, hey, like this will only take you about 10 minutes, so we're giving you an hour to do it. But basically, we need you to get X, Y, and Z. It's like information.